Welcome, everyone, to the inaugural episode of Podcasters Assemble, a roundtable discussion of Marvel Strike Force with the three of the biggest names in Strike Force podcasting. I'm Dorian from the Strike Force Damage Control podcast, and I'll be your host for the night. Joining me are Big Roy Awesome and Chewburger 84 from the Masters of Launch podcast.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, guys. Also joining us are going to be Hebrew Hammer and the IrishMan from the PowerCore Podcast.
What's up?
Yo, yo, yo.
Hey, glad you guys could join us. So tonight,
wait, I want to redo mine now after that.
Yeah, this is gonna be great, isn't it? So tonight we're gonna be covering a bunch of various topics ranging from the state of the game to our opinions about Fox Next. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce the Masters of Launch podcast.
Hey, thanks, Dorian. So I'm Chewburger 84, and obviously we have Big Roy Awesome. We make up the Strike Force Masters of Launch podcast. We are probably the youngest of the three podcasts. We are 7 episodes in right now. So our focus is mainly appealing on people like ourselves. We're both day one global launch players. We try and provide a mixed balance of opinions. So I would be what you would consider a dolphin in this game, and Roy's completely free to play. So we try and balance all of our opinions to try and appeal to a very wide player base. And we try and have a bit of fun with it along the way. So that would probably lead us to Hebrew and the PowerCore podcast. Why don't you tell us about that, champion?
Well, I am Hebrew Hammer, and I have my co-host with me, the IrishMan. And we are part of the PowerCore podcast. I guess we are the ugly stepchild, or the ugly middle child of the podcast. But we have a great time, and we also we're Dolphins. We're now free to play, but we offer this similar point of view, and we like to also kind of broad stroke everything. We have opinions on beta stuff as well, and we just like to have a good time. And our Twitter handle is twitter.com/@PowerCorePod. Our Discord is discord.me/PowerCorePodcast if you guys want to join it.
All right. Thanks, guys. And again, I'm Dorian from the Strike Force Damage Control podcast. I think we're probably the elder of the bunch. We are about 25 episodes in now. We started right around launch. I am a beta player. I started about a month into soft launch, a month before soft launch ended. Well, it's going to be a fun one tonight, guys. You can find us on Twitter at SFDC Podcast, or you can join our Discord at SFDC Podcast. Wow, it is going to be a good one. Discord.me/SFDC Podcast. All right, now that we got the introductions out of the way, guys, let's just kind of jump right into it here. And let's go into the state of the game. So before we start jumping into maybe specific individual areas, I'd like to get your opinions on what is the overall state of the game for you right now. So let's hear from somebody that we didn't get to in the intro. So Irishman, how about you? What do you think of as the overall state of the game right now?
When you're gonna pop that one on me? Okay.
Yeah. Pandora's box is about to open.
You just opened a can of worms. Here we go.
I am timing everyone.
Cool. I'll keep it quick. So yeah, I've never played a game like this before, where the developers genuinely seem incompetent. It's something that I'm trying to get used to. I'm trying to stay open-minded to it. Everyone keeps telling me that's just the state of mobile games. This is my first real big mobile game. I've been a console gamer and a PC gamer my whole life, and I'm obsessed with Marvel. And that's one thing that I think they do a great job on is the execution of just the Marvel thematics, the art, the gameplay is great. Just the game design is amazing. But I feel they've got some real big issues when it comes to the product team and the people that are setting these prices and whatnot. And you can just tell there's some big decisions being made at the top that aren't necessarily as gamer friendly as previous games that I've been really active in.
Roy, how about you? What do you think?
I think they are finally moving in the right direction. They in beta and right at the launch they were pretty good, although it did get a lot worse after beta. They made it a lot harder to get everything. And then, as everyone who's played the game knows, they've done horrible decision after horrible decision for a month and a half, 2 months. I've lost track of time now. But finally, someone's lit a fire under them, or multiple people lit a fire under them, and now they're finally moving in the right direction. We'll just have to see if they keep on making good decisions or not. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. The game for the longest time, and if anybody who listened to our podcast knows, I've been extremely critical and very negative. But I think shortly after Nightly Gate and some of the decisions that came out right after that, we were kind of on an uptick until the Creminion Orb, and then it just kind of nosedived, and then it feels like it's on an upswing now, and I'm cautiously optimistic about where things are heading. So I personally think that we are moving into a better place, but I think the next 2 to 3 months are really going to be key. Hebrew, what do you think? All right, Hebrew is muted. I apologize.
Muting him already.
I don't know if he muted himself, but okay. So Hebrew's been muted. So let's just jump to Chewburger. What do you think?
I think that Hebrew was probably filtering that curse filter that you've put on, my friend. He's probably just banned himself. But look, I think the words that Roy used probably sum me up pretty well. I think cautiously optimistic is where I am for now. I think we've been in probably a downward trend for quite a while. I think all 3 podcasts have spoken pretty in depth as to why. But there's definitely a vibe at the moment that the developers are kind of hearing what the community is saying. They're reaching out. They're looking for more feedback. It seems to be that they're reading the MPO, the Strikeforce Players Organization letter that's gone back to them. They're reaching out to more content creators. I know that one representative from each of these podcasts is talking to them, and after having spoken to them, I've got much more confidence in their intent, that they actually want to do the right thing by the players. They want to hear what they are looking for, and we're starting to see some glimpses that we might be starting to get back on the right track. So cautiously optimistic is where I am, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and I think that's one thing that we need to be careful about too, because as the Irishman had mentioned to bad developers, and as a person with a moniker developer myself, I don't like that because developers. I mean, you could see the game and see that the developers have a passion for what they're doing, and as you alluded to, I think what we're seeing is, I don't know if you guys watch Mobile Gamers YouTube channel, but it's the people making the business decision. Whoever's doing the price points on these orbs, right. Whoever's making the decision to remove the power cores from the daily login. It's the business decision that are really kind of ruining some of the aspects of the game. I don't know if it's fair to put that at the feet of the developers. But Hebrew, what about you? What do you think of the overall state of the game right now?
Yeah, sorry about that. I am back now. But overall, I think the game is perfect.
All right.
That's been our podcast. Thanks for listening.
And all our subscribers just left. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, they have a lot of issues. They're working kind of at a deficit right now. My biggest problem with this thing overall is that I really feel like we're the beta testers, is what it feels like. I feel like we're the guinea pigs, and I feel like the beta overall was just kind of a playground, because it seems like they didn't really change and test things enough. So I think that's their biggest problem, is that we're the people that are testing out the game for them. So whenever the game started, everything was too bountiful, and resources were way too abundant, and they had to pull that back, and it's been causing a lot of issues to kind of balance out the rewards, figure out where things need to be in order to create a good and flourishing environment, because you don't want things to be too easy to get. You don't want things to be too hard to get. Granted, I think a lot of the moves that they do are a little ridiculous, as in common sense would kind of dictate immediately that this makes no sense. But but regardless, we are seeing them move in a good direction. And they've kept it up for a little bit now. I think I can measure it in weeks still, but it's just what needs to be happening is finally happening, and I think we're going to see some good stuff coming soon in the future.
Excellent. So let's dive into some specific areas of the game, and I think we're going to start with the one that maybe causes the most contention. And Hebrew, let's stay with you. What are your feelings on Blitz right now? What's the state of Blitz? What do you think of Blitz?
Well, I hate it, honestly. I don't think I think I was in a way I think I was a little spoiled with the 6 hour. I got used to it, and I truly do think that is the correct cooldown window. But I think I would be okay with it if I started as a player right now. You know, if I knew nothing else, I think I'd be okay with it. So I'm a little spoiled from it, from knowing what I've seen before. But right now, to me, with 2 hours, it feels like they're just trying to keep me on the game as long as they can. And statistics show that with mobile games like these, the longer you are on, the more likely you are to spend. So they really are trying to do that. And there's goods and there's pros and cons to this. With the ability to have these 2 hour windows, free to play players can be more competitive if they put in a lot more effort. Otherwise, there's now a middle ground where dolphins and even whales, to some extent, they don't put in as much effort as some of the free to play people do in order to get those rewards. So they can more easily climb the ladder. But for me, myself, like I've dropped out of Blitz almost entirely, unless every once in a while, if I see a Blitz that I really like, I'll hop back in. But I really hope that they change the window even to something like 4 hours would be nicer, or maybe they use a token system or something. But for me, that's kind of where I'm at with Blitz.
And what do you think about the addition of the gold orb fragments to the Blitz that started today?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I actually just sent some feedback a little bit ago saying that I think that they need to keep it up and that they need to put it on rotation with Blitz Orbital. We've all spoken about that. I think we all agree. Because, I think that will help alleviate this bottleneck feeling that we have.
So let me ask you on that one, though, because have you looked at the number of fragments that you're getting for a 3-day cycle if you're in the 1 to 10%? You're only getting like 800.
For this one?
Let me double check. When I looked at it earlier, I was pretty sure the rewards were 800.
Talking about the gold fragments for this Blitz for top 10%? Because I think that the gold fragments are 20K for top 10.
You know what? That is absolutely my bad. I apologize. I was looking at the Mega Orb fragments. It's 875 Mega Orb fragments. The colors are too close together, so that's my fault.
I totally agree.
No, 20K is absolutely awesome.
And
fantastic. Yes, so that's going to be 10 gold orbs if you're in the 1 to 10% range. Roy, what about you? What are your feelings on Blitz in the current state?
I am the exact opposite. I love it. The 2 hour cooldown makes it a lot more convenient to Blitz whenever you're available to. Whereas when it was 6 hour cooldown, like it rolled over at 8 o'clock Eastern, my time. So if I didn't do that first run right away, I might not get my second run in until the next day after I've slept. Whereas 2 hours, if you got like a nice little block, you can get 2 or 3 runs in like a 6 or 8 hour block, which is much better than trying to get 3 runs in like every 6 hours, because sometimes you can't be there for the 6 hour cooldown. I find it a lot easier to get everything done I need to on there. I've mostly just been doing all the milestones and taking the top 10%, but like I've gone really hard on Rocket Raccoon. I got like 2.6 million, I think. So I like it much better 2 hours. I didn't at first, but once I tried it and figured it out, I liked it a lot better than 6 hours.
Chewy, how about you?
Yeah, in concept, I always like the 6 hours better. But with the 2 hours, it's the same as Roy. I think I've come around and I prefer this now for 2 reasons. One is that with my meeting schedule, it's really hard to, get myself out at very specific times. So I can kind of jump in and do my runs when I need to. I hate the first probably 2 runs every Blitz because I'm running my whole roster and that feels like it's taking forever. But then I'm really only cycling 4 teams after that. So it's kind of jump in, 5 to 10 minutes, it's done, and then I move on. I also like it because it feels much less punishing if RNG decides to stand up and punch you in the face.
Yep.
Because it can mean that, if you have 4 losses with your main teams every 6 hours, that's one whole attempt that has got you nothing. So I've come around a lot. I think, obviously, when the rewards dropped down from what we saw previously, I was severely disappointed. But I'm hoping that with the addition of things like this Gold Blitz today, that's a sign that they're looking to start increasing some of those rewards back to levels that are more acceptable for the community. So, yeah, I really like it. I do burn out, though. If there's a blitz that I want to go really, really hard on, like the one today, for example, I think that over the next couple of days I'm going to go hard, but then I have no doubt that I'll end up probably just phoning it in and hitting the milestones on the next 2 or 3. That's been the pattern for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I've been. I've been with the milestones and just trying to hit those because I'm not a huge blitz fan. I was upset when they dropped from the 6 to the 2 because I work a lot and it's hard. I work in an office and my boss sits right next to me, so it's hard for me to kind of whip out my phone and just do 5 minutes or whatever, and every couple hours because he's like, "Why aren't you working?" And I'm like, "Because I'm playing a game."
Like, I'm blitzing, man.
I'm
Get
blitzing,
off.
man. Come on, let me show you what I'm doing here.
You get him
why don't
into
you
the
come play it?
game.
Right? Yeah.
You get him into the
There you
game,
go.
and then you won't have a problem.
Yeah,
It's like, you blitz yet, man? I got a blitz.
So I feel that 2 is a little too low because it does, for me, like I think what Hebrew was saying was that it keeps you in the game too much. For me, Marvel Strike Force is one of those games that you've got to be in all the time. I haven't put my phone down this evening because, I've got an Ultimates raid, I've got a Deadpool raid, I've got Blitz going on. I've got to do my initial climb before reset tonight so that I don't waste 500 energy. And it's just it's a hard thing to do. I'd like to see them maybe increase the time by an hour or 2, but that's not likely to happen. And the reason why I think on that, and Irishman, I've not forgotten you, and I'll get to you in just 1 second. I'm gonna raise a specter of the dead here. I was talking to Muggin earlier today, and for those of you who are not aware, Muggin was my former co-host who decided to quit the game just over some of the decisions they were making shortly before the exodus that we saw last week of other content creators. And he has moved on and is playing Contest of Champions after seeing Seaton. And I know, Hebrew, you're playing that now as well. And he explained to me how Strike Force is kind of a mix of 2 games here, where it's this clone of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in a lot of its aspects, but it's also a clone of the Contest of Champions. And Hebrew, if at any time if I'm wrong here, please jump in and correct me. And
No, I think that is exactly right.
And so my understanding is that because I tried to get in the contest, I played it for a few days, and I got up to like level 10 or 12, and I was like, man, it's just I can't do another game. But he was explaining the blitz concept that goes on in Contest of Champions, where over there I understand you guys have like 4 blitzes running at one time, and it is a 2-hour refresh, but you have to kind of choose where you're going.
Yes.
So I'd like to see them do something like that here, where maybe we had 2 or 3 blitzes going on, but you can only use your teams in one of them. I think that would create more diversity, would allow more people to get better rewards, and I think it would increase the pool out a little bit. Now, you got to make sure you're not running, Loki, who's never coming to the game, Loki, Nebula, and Ravager, Stitcher, or something. You know what I mean? Where everybody's going to be jumping into that Loki. You got to run 3 of similar type of characters. So you run Loki. You don't run Mordo because he's in Arena now, but you run Loki. You run Doctor Strange. You run Rocket or Wasp, Ant-Man, something like that. And I don't know. I just kind of feel that would help the Blitz out a lot. Irishman, what do you think? What's your opinion on Blitz right now?
I think Blitz is garbage.
Tell us how you really feel.
My point. No, I'm not necessarily against the 2-hour thing. I'm against the 2-hour thing all throughout the day. I do think they need to move towards like a token system where you get those 2-hour refreshes, but maybe you get 5 of them a day kind of thing. And then after that, it falls off rather than it being a constant 2 hours. That way, if you do want to, you can kind of, you work your schedule around it. You can go, okay, like I've got, you know, once I get off work, I can, you know, hit it up every 2 hours and be able to do just fine. Or maybe I can start at a break at 3 o'clock and then go from there. The other thing is this Blitz, they need the folder system because right now it's overwhelming. I've got so many things that I'm trying to keep up with. I can't tell you how many times I've went into Blitz and for some reason I set up my arena team and then I'm like, oh crap, I just messed up my whole approach. Like, and you know, they've said something along the lines of, you know, they're going to be coming out with the folders, but they're also coming out with what do they call it? A synergy system. And I'm just going to say right now, drop the synergy system. No one's asking for it. And it's very handholdy. Like just go ahead and get a folder system out there. And then it's going to make the Blitz the way it currently is a lot more feasible. But right now, the way I see it, it's overwhelming. It's extremely grindy. And I think, was it Chewburger that you said, like, you burn out really quick. And I don't think that's a good, you know, gameplay experience. And as of right now, I'm in the same boat as Hebrew. I'm doing my 2. And then every now and then, whenever a good Blitz comes around, I'll kind of, I won't really go hard. I'll get to it as much as I can kind of thing. But I go in. Yeah, I'll go soft.
And we all just got explicit tags.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
But it kind of sucks because, you know, just like Dorian, I work, you know, all throughout the day, and I know because, you know, there's going to be free-to-play players that can go in and they can hit that thing up every 2 hours, no problem. And I'm going to have to put in so much more effort to even keep up with them. And I don't understand the whole catering to free-to-play players. They're free-to-play. Like, I'm a money spender. So, like, ideally, they would be catering to the people that be willing to spend money on the game, which I've spent money on Blitzes before, but I haven't spent on it since, I think it was the not the last Rocket Blitz, but the one before that. So
let me derail us for 1 second, because I'm a free-to-play player. And if you didn't have free to play, then you wouldn't have anybody to play against. You would have some of the other spenders, but all the other spenders would have everything that you've got, and it wouldn't be nearly as much fun, right?
Can I interject here? Because actually, I think I know what he's referring to. Irish, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's meaning more that pay-to-play players don't get enough content. Like, they don't get enough value for what they put in.
That's fair.
I think that's what he's saying.
Okay,
yeah.
Then okay, no problem then.
Well,
right.
I mean, no. I mean, I understand what Dorian's saying, but I guess the way I see it is I'm like, I'm all for, you know, having a healthy, you know, pool of free to play players, but the way the Blitz is set up currently, it feels like it's only catered to free to play right now. Where before it was like, I mean, there was a couple Blitzes I didn't spend any money on, and I was hitting top 10%, no problem. Where with currently it's I'm just having to put in tons of effort, and even if it discourages me from spending money because I'm like I'm still gonna get blown out of the water by free to play players. So I'm kind of at a point where it's like I would like for it to be a little bit more expanded upon, rather than it feels like it's really more catered towards free to play right now than anyone else.
Okay, yeah, I think I understand what you're saying on that.
But yeah, I love free to play players, guys. You know, I'm not.
Hey, the gloves were coming off, man. I was just gonna say.
But no, I mean, in their business, you know. So ideally, they're trying to bring in money as well as cater to free to play players. So they got to find that happy balance.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That's the key, is balance. Yeah. As everything should be.
Unexpected Thanos. All right, which is, by the way, is quickly becoming one of my favorite subs on Reddit. So let's move on now to talk about kind of the clutch area of the game, because it's the best way to get cores and really the only way to get reliable cores, and that's Arena. Hebrew, what's your feelings on Arena now, both before the shard merge and after the shard merge?
So for me, Arena is a really good mode. I'm actually a fan of it. I think that it's a good competitive mode. I think that they need to work a little bit more on the AI. I think it's a little too simplistic. Although I do think that they've made some changes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I see sometimes like taunters, like they don't taunt whenever another tank has been taunted, or is already taunting rather. I'm not sure if that's just me and I'm crazy or what, but yeah. So I think that needs a little bit of work. But outside of that, I think it's really good. I think the rewards are fair and balanced, and I think it's a little too meta-y. I hate Crossbones with a burning passion. Everyone knows that, but luckily we're starting to see him go out of the meta, or not necessarily out of meta, but more easily countered with other characters that we see coming in, which seems to be their goal based off of some in-game mails that we've received. So I'm glad that we're seeing more of that, and I'm a little worried with the introduction of the Fury teams, all 5 people that have them. And
I'm super excited about the introduction of the Fury teams.
I was gonna say, I think
You
2 or
are.
3 are in this room.
No, I think it's just Chewburger, right? Roy, did you get
I
it?
think so.
Oh no, not
Yeah.
even close.
Yeah, it's just Chewburger. But anyways, yeah. So I think that that's gonna cause a little bit of a disruption, but we'll have to.
Now recording.
Oh,
Sorry about that. I accidentally kicked him. His name was changed, so I apologize.
oh, you're fine. Did it catch what we did before?
Yeah,
or-
I'm still recording locally, so don't worry about it.
Okay, great. But anyways, yeah. So I think that with him showing up, it might be a little bit of trouble. But overall, I actually am a big fan of Arena. I think it's a good system, and I think it's fun. And I like the fact that there's a token. There's a limit of how many you can do a day.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Chewburger, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to keep mine short because Roy is definitely the arena expert within the podcasts. But I like it for the most part. I haven't really been attempting much in the last probably month or so, just because I didn't want to spend a lot of resources on guys like Hand Sentry just to stay competitive. So, but I fully intend on getting Fury up real quick and throwing him in the arena as soon as possible. The one thing that I would change is, well, actually 2. I'd love to see the cooldown on the attempts become closer together. I think 15 minutes is too long, mainly because I normally just sort of finish work just with about an hour to spare before the arena payouts. So I'd love to be able to get more attempts in that 1 hour. And the other thing is the snapback system, that if you beat someone, but someone else beats someone else, and you finish in first with about 30 seconds to go, and then at the payout, all of a sudden you're 47th or some crazy number. I'd love to see that rubber banding change, because I think it's nuts that you shouldn't be able to bounce that far back just because of some epic chain of RNG that was calculated behind the scenes. And I'd love to see the amount of refreshes that you could do per day, let's say in the top 100, limited, because I think there are some people that can literally win just because of the amount of cores they're willing to spend on just refreshing. That might go against what Irish was talking about. He might want to be able to do that to be able to pay for that win. But I think Arena should be the one part of the game that there should be a little bit more competitiveness, whether you're free to play or not.
Irish?
In my defense, I haven't spent a single dime on Arena, so but no, I mean, Arena is one of the few areas that I've got zero complaints about. Well, I shouldn't say zero. I will agree with Hebrew that the meta feels a little stagnant right now, and I am worried about Nick Fury. I do think they're gonna see their first experience of power creep, and but yeah, I mean, as far as the arena is concerned, that's on the very bottom of my list of priorities as far as refining and polishing.
All right. And Roy?
Yeah, actually, my biggest problem with Arena was not Arena itself, but that they took power cores out of the monthly calendar, because that made Arena a lot more competitive. I used to get first place like 5-6 days in a row. I basically ruled the top of my arena. Then they took those power cores out, and I'm getting hit constantly. So, so now I'm like top 10 most of the time now, but I'm kind of losing interest because vision is just a pain in the butt to fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You guys all have me beat, man. I hang around the 500 to 1,000 range depending on the day. I never.
You're beta, right?
I am. I'm soft launch, so I'm dealing with a lot of those heavy hitting teams and a lot of the people that probably didn't care moving up. But I went more wide on my roster than focused. So, my arena team is maybe 130, 125, 130K at most.
Right.
So, I'm kind of happy where I'm at because, hey, when you need those city heroes, I'm the guy you call.
What about those global villains?
And hey, global villains, I'm great on the global villains. The city villains, I don't think anybody's got those city villains.
Wait, are you actually good on the global villains?
Global villains? No.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
Who is the hero, the champion that has that team?
Who has all the Hydra and AIM up there?
Yeah. No.
By the way, I just want to mention one thing. This kind of goes back to Blitz. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to also, I totally forgot to mention this, but I just wanted to say I also really disagree with, we talked about shards, and that's what reminded me. I also really disagree with them combining the beta and global shard. I just wanted to mention that. I highly disagree with that. I don't think anyone asked for it. So.
Believe it or not, I think people were asking for it because Muggin and I talked about this a lot. At least on Reddit, people were clamoring about how beta has it so easy. That we're getting everything, and we can complete anything because boy, we had all this time, before global launch, and it's not fair, and they should have to compete with you guys.
Us wanting to be combined with you?
I believe there were requests out there. I'd have to check with Muggin because he was following that a lot closer than I was at the time. But there were people that wanted to see those get combined, and you guys actually the global shard for a while there was even outscoring the beta shard for the prizes.
Necessary competition though, because we had a lot larger population. And those people on Reddit were definitely soft launch people pretending to be global launch just so they could get into our pool where they could just thrash the ass off us for sure.
Plus, I really follow Reddit to a T, especially at that time, and I never really saw a lot of people talk about that. Maybe an occasional thread of maybe they should combine them because we're getting similar scores, but I definitely did not see that as a popular outcry in the slightest.
I have to take your word for it because, like I said, I saw Muggin was the one on our show that kind of followed all that.
I remember that.
Reddit gives me PTSD, so I try to avoid it like the plague. But but the question that I have for that, because this also ties into Arena as well. With shard combining, when is a good time to do that, or when is an okay time to do that? I mean, at what power levels do you need to look at combining, global launch with beta? Because I can tell you right now, I bet you Roy and Hebrew are all you guys global?
Oh yeah.
I'm the only soft launch person in here.
Yep.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen,
Grant, you're the only one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get explicit because it is time for a measuring contest. So,
oh really?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. What is your all's total collection power right now?
Well, that's different because I've spent. I mean, I don't know if I've spent and Chewburger spent and Irish has spent. So that's not a. That's a false equivalency of it.
Okay.
Well,
so
Roy will be pretty close though because he's done really well in Arena. But yeah, he's all completely free to play except for was it one pack? The starter
was $20 the first few weeks of the game total. And that's it. Nothing since then. Total collection power is 609K.
Okay. All right. So moving on. My total collection power right now is about 710.
Okay.
And I started a month. Well, I started a month before global launch.
Right. And can I just mention one more thing? Just to answer the question that you put out there. I do think that there was a better time to do it, and I think that's whenever it was basically in a few more months. Whenever the difference between power levels up at that point wouldn't be quite as different. And we also had more farmable characters that are at this point and were before especially locked behind a bit of a paywall. So I think that later on down the line, combining them, it wouldn't have made as much of a big deal. But at the time that they did it, especially with all of the big changes going on, I think that it was just a terrible time to do it.
Yeah, I think for me, there's really two optimal ways to do it. One is you lock everybody into the month that they join, right? So that's what Galaxy of Heroes does. But another game I play, Disney Hero Battle Mode, they actually shuffle the arena on a daily basis, and they do that, and they do that kind of based off power, right? And I think that this game also could go through a 2 or 3 month, almost like a season where you're put in with people of similar collection power, and you fight with them. And then next season, you move into a shard based off your collection power.
Right.
And I think they should be capped at 20,000 individuals per shard.
So I'd love to jump in there and actually disagree on the point that if you go off CP, if you went really, really wide on a roster and geared everyone up sort of equally, and you had 5 or 6 teams at tier 10 versus someone that, 1/3 or whatever it is of their CP is in one massive team, that team is going to roll roughshod over everyone else in that CP shard. So I'm not a big fan of that particular idea. I really like the monthly sharding. There should be no reason to merge newer players with older players ever. I can't see that.
Yeah, I see your point, but I guess my counterpoint is, shouldn't those people be rewarded for focusing? No, I take that back. I almost immediately regretted saying that. because I'm a collector. I want to win. I'm competitive, but at the same time, I want to own everything. So that's why my collection power is so big, is because I want everything, and I do take them to. I don't have anybody at level 1 right now. Nobody. Everybody's at minimum level 20 or level 30 for me.
Right.
Just because, for blitzing, I want more points. So I wanted to get a minimum level, but I don't want to beat this too long. So, but I think that, there are ways they could fix this. Whether or not it would work, I don't know. We'd have to see. But milestones and achievements is kind of next on our list. Roy, why don't you start us off? What do you think of the current milestones and achievements, and where they used to be, where they are now? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm glad they got rid of the spending PowerCore one, because that one was just ridiculous. The current training module one, they need to tone down the last 2 milestones, because they're just insanely difficult to get. You'd have to spend millions and millions and millions of gold worth of training modules. The gold one is perfect how it is. Pretty much, you spend $1 million, you get all the milestones. I think they could come up with some more creative ones. I liked when they did the alliance milestones. I hope they bring those back at some point. That was nice. It felt like you worked together more to get your rewards too.
When you say alliance milestones, are you talking for during the raids? During the season?
Yeah, they don't you remember the alliance milestones they had for a little bit there? Where I think it was the raids, every raid you did and you got points towards the alliance milestone thing, and then you got rewards for that.
I just collected a couple of those today.
No, I missed the raid.
No, it was a separate. It was in the milestone thing.
Okay.
With the single player milestones also. It was a while back, but
yeah, this was a while ago.
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah, guys, I'm old. I might have early onset dementia. I don't know. My wife and kids are a little concerned. Apparently, I had a conversation with my wife right beside me earlier today, and I asked her if she needs to know what he and I talked about. And she's like, "I was right beside you." And I'm like, "No, you weren't." And he's like, "Yes, she was." And I'm like, "All right then, moving on." Irish, what about you?
I was going to have a Sixth Sense style twist at the end there.
No. I see dead people. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Irish, what about you, man? What do you think of the current milestones and achievements?
Yeah, almost the same as Roy, actually. I think the gold one's fine. I think the
said
training
Irish.
modules one.
I did say Irish, but you know what? Chewburger wants you to just keep going.
Sorry.
What?
Just jumping on that.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start going to, and I will unmute you when it's time for you to talk. No, so Irish, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. Like when it came to the when it came to the achievements, I'm not really paying attention too much to the achievements. They just kind of pop up, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll claim it. The thing that bothers me the most is the alliance milestones. Just think they're boring, and they're not interactive at all. They don't, give me any type of excitement at all. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's how I look at it right now. I mean, because I'm more of a, I'm not, I mean, I don't know, I'm not hardcore, but when it comes to these achievements and stuff, I don't bother looking into them because they've never really got me excited in the first place. So, that's just the way I look at it. But yeah, and it'd be cool if it was a little bit more exciting.
Hebrew?
By the way, he said Hebrew. Chewburger. So.
I did that on purpose because I wanted to see what was going to happen.
It wasn't about me, so I wasn't.
So my opinion on these, actually, they kind of echo Irish's, because I think that they're just plain boring, and I think that that's the problem with some people don't even care to look at them at all, because you feel like you really don't get much out of them. They just pop on your screen and you're like, all right, whatever, I'll grab this. So yeah, I just think that they need to amp up the rewards a little bit. For the milestones, it's not quite as bad as the achievements. The achievements are terrible. I mean, I'm just not a fan of, Chewburger and I were actually talking earlier about Hulk, and for an achievement exclusive character, I feel like he's already super underwhelming as a character as it is. And I don't know, I just 5 shards, it's just not enough, especially for in some cases how difficult and tedious some of these achievements are. So I think that they're really, yeah.
Real quick, I'm looking at the achievements now for the first time. Win 1,400 battles in Blitz, 1,400, and
Right.
you get 3 Hulk shards and 280 gold orb fragments. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the problem. And some of them you get less, some of them you get more. There is one that gives 15, but they're super boring. Like, I'm not going to get excited for 25 power cores after 180 days of logging in. I'm sorry, but give me more, please. So yeah, my biggest complaint is with the achievements. Milestones are just kind of not quite of an intense version of that. They change out quite often. The rewards aren't terrible, but it also, it's just a little generic. I wish that they would have a little more interesting of challenges as well. Just spend training modules, spend campaign energy. I don't know. It's a little meh to me. So I wish that they would amp it up a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
And finally, Chewburger. Now it's your turn.
So I just want to clarify, you said Chewburger there, yes?
Yeah, mate.
Oh, mate. If we're going to start doing impressions of each other, this is going to devolve real fast. Yeah, look, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't see it more so as, I don't know that we need to really revamp these in a way that makes them more interesting, because I just see them as sort of bonus passive rewards for things that you're doing anyway. Training modules definitely needs to be tuned down for those last 2, same as Roy said. I think the gold one's fine where it is. I think the campaign energy one is fine where it is. If we talk about the achievements, yeah, it doesn't tune well. I mean, we just spoke about Arena. Most people are doing maybe 5 attempts per day, and right now I'm sitting at 844 battles in Arena, and I have to do another 350 before I'm going to get 3 Hulk shards. So the achievements don't scale at all, and I think that needs to change. And yeah, I'd love to see Hulk get buffed to make that feel much more rewarding as well.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Now, this may surprise you. I'm only sitting at 447 battles in Arena, because
Wow.
Yeah, I like I said, I typically try to climb towards the end of the day because I'm just so busy, right? So
Right.
and with that cooldown, it doesn't happen. So I hit 2. I get my daily for that, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm sitting around 600. I'm not getting up higher. I don't care. I'm very bad at this game. So I think that it's the milestones are nice mainly because they pop up and I go, woohoo, 10 cores, or woohoo, 15 cores. I do think that the rewards may need a little bit of revamping with achievements, like you guys said. And the achievements really need to feel better. I was just looking at them myself, and obviously we're all sitting at level 65 now, and if you go to 70, you get 100 cores. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you get more in arena every day.
Right.
Like,
it's like, I mean, look, I don't expect to get 1,000 power cores for going from 65 to 70, but 100 is like, meh. I just, whatever. I don't care.
yeah, it's a little exactly. It's a little, honestly, it's a little insulting because it's just like that's weighing out my time, and I'm getting just a handful of cores, and I'm like, all right, I'd rather you guys just not give me cores.
Yeah.
So
well, speaking of not giving you cores, thanks for the segue. We're going to talk about the calendar for a little bit here, because that removal of power cores was probably one of the biggest slaps in the face that
Give me
I've
back my
seen.
cores.
I mean, it didn't hurt it didn't hurt the whales or the dolphins as much as it hurt the free to play. Actually, this was kind of my argument with Casino that finally got him to see it from my side, because he was like, man, it's not that big of a deal. You can just go through arena. But when you remove those cores from the daily logins, you take away the ability for the free-to-play players to kind of be able to keep up and make some headway in arena to get more cores. So if you only have your spenders at the top of the arena, it's really just a getting richer snowball effect. And I think that removal of had we started the game with no cores in the login, fine. It would have been a global launch. Sure, the beta players or soft launch or whatever you want to call us, would have probably gone, what in the world are you doing? But global would have been like, what's the big deal? We've never had this. So I don't like the fact that they removed those. I had hoped that this 7-day login would have supplemented that in some way, but they're only giving us the premium orbs. And you get 1 premium orb per 7 days. And sure, they can look at it and go, well, that's 450 cores worth of value that we're giving you every week, but I don't care about the premium orb. I want the cores so I can get energy refreshes, so I can raid refresh, heal, blitz refresh, or whatever I need to do. I want the cores, right?
right.
And I don't know. I do like some of the special login stuff that they've been doing. It's been kind of nice, when an event comes up. And I expect we're going to see that again, like, when Iron Man comes back in September, when Star-Lord comes back, I imagine we'll see more of that special login where you get, between 2 and 5 shards of a character needed for that special event, which is really, really nice. And I think it helps out a lot of people to kind of maybe finish out those last few. But Roy, what do you think about that? What's your feelings on the current state of the calendar?
Oh yeah, I hate the changes. It's like the weekly would be good if they did something other than the premium orb, like you said. Now, if they just made like another character, make it just like a minion on the weekly, and then have a named character on the monthly or something like that. Just more than just a premium orb. That's boring. Just change it up, do something else for the weekly, or just put it back how like it was and give us the power cores.
Yeah. Chewburger, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the power cores is them being taken out. There was no reason to do that. We have more requirements to purchase things in this game, whether it be gold or gear or campaign refreshers or whatever. To take that away while we're having all the other currencies, I guess, being under more pressure just didn't make any sense other than trying to completely slow down progression for all characters. I thought that episode that you guys had with Casino, I think you guys covered it pretty well, that, it just creates a wider gap between I wouldn't say between sort of dolphins and maybe baby whales, but I think the krakens and the super whales definitely go much, much, much further now compared to us. So maybe they get some more rewards for spending more money now. Maybe they are trying to do what Irish was sort of saying before of trying to make people who do spend money on cores feel like they're getting more bang for their buck. But I wasn't a fan of it. So calendar-wise, look, again, it's passive stuff. There's nothing in there I usually get too excited about, though.
Irish, what about you? What do you think of the calendar right now?
I want my cores back.
See, I thought you were being facetious.
No, I mean, I really do want my cores back, but I mean, for me, like the calendar is an opportunity to do some fun stuff, and they're not like doing anything fun with it. So like you guys were saying, you know, the weekly calendar, you get a premium warp fragments, right? And I'm just like, why didn't they mix it up to where it's like, okay, like this week it's premium orbs, the next week it's gold fragment orbs, the next week it's, you know,
Power cores.
Power cores.
Yeah.
No, I mean that'd be cool. Do
Yeah,
Power Core
that'd-
week like that way, and then suddenly, you know, everyone is like, oh, I'm definitely playing super hard this week because I'm not gonna miss a single day because it's the Power Core week. So it kind of creates that little, and you know, you can have it mixed up, so it doesn't have to be the same, you know, the third week of every month where they do the Power Cores. You could, I mean, they don't even have to be Power Cores every month. You could have them every other month or something like that, and just do a little bit more Power Cores than your typical. Maybe do 1,000 Power Cores. You know, happy middle ground compromise between not having them and not giving away so much. But yeah, it just whenever I saw it, I was kind of like, oh, you know, it's got a neat system in it, but they just didn't have too much fun with it. And then they, I don't understand why they give us training orb fragments. Those are just like the most like that's the most boring, you know, just not
Useless.
rewarding, useless thing in the game. That I'm just kind of like whenever I saw it, I was like, oh, they have training orbs, like that's weird. Okay. So yeah, so I don't know. I'm not the calendar is an opportunity to kind of get people excited. You know, oh, it'd be cool if, you know, maybe one of those calendar days it drops like, you know, 20 Winter Soldier shards, whatever, and I wouldn't be against it. Correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't missed a single day, so I haven't been able to test it. But if when it comes to, so say I miss a day, does it just pick up on the next day in the calendar, or does it put me back a day in the calendar?
So
Does that
it
make
basically
sense?
puts you back a day. So if you missed the 20th, when you log in on the 21st, you're getting the 20th rewards. So what
So
winds
then
up
that means
happening is
you're
you
never going to
lose-
get the final reward then.
Right.
For the weekly, yeah.
Well, for the weekly or for the monthly.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that's true.
And that's the thing. I think it'd be cool if like the weekly, like you had to log in every single day, like consistently. But then the monthly, it'd be kind of neat if it was just like, oh, you know, this is the day where this is going to drop, and you know, I'll make sure I make sure I log in that day or
Basically, it just never pushed you back. Like it never.
yeah, like you use the
You-
you know the
You
big
could skip a
calendar,
day.
the ability to skip days, but then make it to where it's like the big rewards are in the special weekly calendar, and those are the days you don't want to miss, kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know. It's just it seems like they could have made it a little bit more fun, and it's just like you said, it's passive rewards, you know. So I don't know, but that's my thoughts on the calendar, and I just want my course back. So.
Hebrew, what about you? What are your thoughts on the calendar?
So for me, pretty much just echoing everyone else here. I do want my course back. I think that, you know, what they did was a little sneaky. I think that, you know, I if I remember correctly, I measured out basically by putting everything into a common resource, what it all equates to. And unless you got 1 million from the gold orb drop, it never equaled out. Like now we're at a deficit from what we were at. That was before they released the premium orbs for the weekly, though.
Well,
And-
at the same time, they increased the so you can do the 50 core refresh on campaign energy 4 times, but then they decreased the amount of cores that you get monthly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. But so with the premium orbs, it did actually, I believe, it did boost you up a little over that. But the problem is that cores are our universal resource in this game. And by putting it into things that we don't need or particularly want at that time, it's they kind of like were like, oh no, you're getting about the same or even a little bit more, and in reality we're not at all, because we can't use these things the way we want to. So they purposely droughted us at the time. Like what Irish was saying, they increased the refresh they allowed us to do one extra 50 refresh, so that kind of made it a little bit more stringent as well. And so yeah, I just felt like they were purposely trying to cheat and drought us. And I think that the answer is always not to whenever it comes to rewards, especially not to reduce, but to increase on the next tier or something like that. I feel like if you start taking things away from people will get mad very quickly. So it's much better to increase the requirement for something rather than to decrease it and get everyone upset. You just kind of have to hide what you're doing a little bit. Like with the Wasp and Ant-Man orb fragments, how they worked the change on that was like pretty good. You just have to make people feel better whenever you do these things. And I don't think that they.
Something you said just there, actually, going back on, was a really good point. Do you remember that there was actually some communications happening where they said, "Look, guys, stop freaking out. It's okay. We're going to make it up to you with the weekly rewards." Like the way they communicated and told us, "No, it's okay. We're just shifting it around. We're going to make it up to you with the weekly calendar." And then when that didn't happen, that was definitely one of the poorer attempts at fixing something the devs have made, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I mean that's pretty much my opinion on it. They just kind of did a little bit of a sketchy thing. They told us to look at one hand while they did something with the other.
Yeah, for me, when they removed the power cores and then up the refresh, it was intentionally trying to give you a hug and tell you everything's gonna be all right while they're reaching into your wallet. I mean, it just I don't know how else to explain it. It felt bad, man.
I felt violated.
And it just, I read Reddit and I read all it's not that big of a deal, and I'm just like,
right.
You're obviously.
When has ever anyone on Reddit been? No, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I've never seen a docile Redditor.
Wait.
You sort by controversial, and you can find it. So.
Okay.
Or when they're trying to intentionally troll you. They're polite as all get out when they say something that they're trying to intentionally troll you. So, that's just, So I think we're pretty all universally agreed, Fox and X. You need to reevaluate the calendar, and I hope that it's coming, because I wanted to kind of mention this earlier when I think we were talking about something that I can't remember what it was when they started taking stuff away, lowering rewards. Is that they're trying to balance the economy, and I've seen this in other games, and they went a little too far. And I'm hoping we're starting to see a shift back into the middle where it should be. So I think they intentionally applied the brakes to everybody to kind of reset the economy, and then try to reinvent the core cost here. Although there is no country on this planet where Kree minions are worth $99.99.
No, not even after the.
I don't care.
Chewburger knows all about that.
What about the Kree minion orbs?
Yeah. Well, hey, the Kree minion orb was only $50. I'm talking the $99.99 deal for the 250 Kree minions.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, that was terrible. I mean, everything Kree, it was a blur of terrible offers, terrible ideas, terrible business decisions. So
yeah, and Casino, you're a friend to all of our podcasts. You've been on every single one of ours now, and I think we all count you as friend, dude. Please don't ever try to sell. Oh, it's a Miss Marvel tie-in again.
Oh, no, you should have listened to last week's PowerCore, because he backtracked. He finally said, no, I've seen the event. I saw Ronan page 1. No, this was a dick move.
Oh yeah, no, it's more of a throwback, because I talked to Casino privately quite a bit, and I gave him hell for that. Privately, so it's not publicly. I'm one of those that if I ever got $1, persons for calling him a shill, I'm one of those guys that's owing him money right now. And I love Casino. He's done a lot for our podcast, so he's been absolutely awesome. Everybody okay there?
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully that siren is not applicable to any of us.
If anybody drops off, we'll know. So
That is not supposed to be. It's only supposed to be picking up what's in front of me. All right.
My Yeti does that sometime. I've got it set to that too, and it feels like it picks up everything else. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's move on and let's talk about something that they introduced in soft launch, and I enjoyed immensely. Then they kind of did away with and then brought back with Ant-Man, and that's the events. What do you guys think of like the character events? You know what? I apologize. Let's
like we just jumping in. Whenever.
Everybody just jump in. Sorry, my cats are going crazy. I get a little distracted. Hebrew, let's start with you. What do you think of the campaign events and the legendary events? I mean, the events at a whole.
Yeah, so I really enjoy the character events, or all of the events really, because I'm a big, anyone that's listening to the podcast knows I'm a big narrative guy. And I actually am really a fan of the stories that they do, and I think that they're, for the most part, really compelling. And so, yeah, I really enjoy them. I think that they're a good implementation. I think that they're a little more unique as well, and they're from an IP that I love. So, but as far as what we get from them, there's some issues. You know, at the beginning, whenever they first tried these, obviously the rewards were terrible. They fixed them up a little bit with Wasp, because Ant-Man was the first one that we saw, if I remember correctly. And the second one with Wasp, they changed some things around. They have, if I remember correctly, they halved the amount of orb fragments, and they increased the drop rate. Was that right?
Yeah, something like that.
So,
yeah. And so I'm glad that they kind of did that. And ever since then, we've seen, like, now we have a good increase. I think it was probably just at Scarlet Witch where I was actually starting to finally feel like I was getting enough, like this was fair. And so, yeah, I think in those situations, you know, we're obviously starting to see them improve more and more. So I'm a big fan of the character events. And I think that one of the events that really upsets me is the team up events. And I love the stories in them, but I think the rewards are garbage. I think that past the Mega Orb pull, which some of them aren't even a full Mega Orb pull. I look back at Ant-Man and Wasp, and that one's only 1,000 fragments, so that one's not even a full one. And but all of them past that point are just total trash. I think that like 60 ABCs is one of the better ones beyond that point, and it's still not enough. Like if I get someone to 6, I think that one was a 6-star. If I get someone to 6 stars, or 2 people for that matter to 6 stars, and geared up to that point to beat the node, I should be getting better rewards than that. I should feel like I want to star these characters up so that way I can get these rewards. I know Casino doesn't agree with me on that, but I personally, I'll never drop that. I think that they need to motivate me to want to do that. And 250 orange ability mats at the end for tier 7, no, I'm sorry, that's trash.
That was whale bait.
Yeah, that's pure whale bait.
Yeah, I mean, they're capitalizing off the fact that they're not letting us get these things as it is. So I was not a fan of that in the slightest bit. And I think the one right before that, it's like 5 purple gears, it's like, I think in total like 25 maybe purple gears, and for 6 stars on both people, that's terrible. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. So they really need to rearrange the rewards on that, and that's kind of the underlying issue with a lot of stuff in this game is just rewards. But I'm almost done, I swear. Just for the legendary character events, I do actually like those. I'm glad that they're kind of hopefully found some stability with how difficult the each tier is. But I am a fan of how they do those. That's very similar to Galaxy of Heroes, if I remember correctly. And you're able to get a 7-star character out of them as long as you get as long as you have the required units to that level. So I am a fan of those, and that's pretty much it for me.
Roy, what about you? What do you think of the current event system?
I think they're okay. I like to a little better when they had it where you could still have the chance of getting the gear every time you do the node instead of just getting the 10 at the beginning.
True.
I am gonna rip off the scab of an old wound. They should have given everyone the original Rocket Raccoon event, not just the beta and some lucky launch people, because they were so far ahead of other people on Rocket. So they should have done the regular for everyone, then do so everyone have the same chance on that. So I wasn't a big fan of them doing that, but as it is now, I kind of like it. I went a little too crazy going refreshes on the Ant-Man one. He's up to 5 stars. I haven't even used him, so I've really gone off. Especially that was right around when they the power cores out of the thing. So I actually blew through all 4,000 power cores I had. So I've cut way down on the refreshes. So I'm built back up finally to like 3,000 something. So yeah, I'm only going to do the refreshes on the characters I really want, like Miss Marvel.
Excellent. Yeah, you've got a lot more self-control than I do, because I'll burn myself down. I think I'm sitting around 400 cores right now.
Oh yeah, I was completely out just about. So I was like, okay, I gotta stop.
Yeah, I may have refreshed the arena store a couple of times to buy Mordo. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Hey, I had him at like base minimum, and he was only like 15 to 20 shards away from the next level, and I'm an impatient person, so I'm old, man. You never know.
Yeah, I don't
you
think
never
there's
know
any
when I'm
real
gonna wake up.
justification.
They love you.
Hey, I didn't spend money. I just used some cores. That
was probably
free.
like the first time they ever saw a ding on the computers of someone doing that. Holy cow! Someone actually just did that.
Hey, I do what I can to increase metrics. Irish, how do you feel about events right now, man?
I really like the Iron Man and the Star-Lord events, with exception to the Nick Fury one, for obvious reasons.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I think the Iron Man and the Star-Lord one are like perfect examples of what to expect from an event like that. I love the Flash events. I've got no complaints when it comes to that. Even with the difficulty increase, it just made it a little bit more challenging for me. I was still able to beat it. But the thing that concerns me is the campaign events. And because I really enjoy the campaign events, but after speaking to Casino last week, the way he explained it was apparently these campaign events aren't ever going to come back. And they're going to just put these characters on like a node and the orbs and stuff like that. And I like the idea of, having these campaign events, things like Scarlet Witch and Rocket and Miss Marvel, have them swing by, and sit around for 2 weeks and just have it on a rotation. And then I'm not against them having multiple, recurring events at the same time. But it kind of takes away I don't know how to explain, maybe the exclusivity of the characters, and the hype around them whenever it's like, oh, you can just farm them on a node now. But I like playing through the kind of like what Hebrew was saying with the lore and the actual storyline behind it. I like playing all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of disheartening for me, because I love that they bring these campaign events around the same way they do the Star-Lord and the Iron Man event. But that from what I've heard, that doesn't seem like it's in the works. So, but overall, I think the events is something that they've done better than a lot of the other areas of the game. So I really don't have a lot of complaints. I know it's crazy. So.
Shocking.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah,
I was actually expecting you to knock down the door with "Give me back my cores" again.
My cores.
Thanks for reminding me. I'll do that on the next segment.
Yeah. I had a suspicion early on that the events weren't going to come back, because I didn't think they were very sustaining. But at the same time, I thought, like Muggin and I had this conversation. We may have actually had it on one of the pods. I can't remember. Where we were talking about this, and I was like, yeah, they're not coming back, and you're going to get them in other methods. And Muggin's like, no, look at the number of fragments they've got per each node. This stuff's going to keep coming back. And I'm like, I don't know. But Chewburger, how do you feel about the events right now in the system?
Yeah, similar to the other guys, I really like some of the clever stories that they've done, or very on point lore wise with most of them. When it comes to the legendary Nick Fury event, having actually cleared through to 5th on that, let me tell you, that's probably the least interesting one. I actually had Roy on a video call, and we were both looking at it, and I was sort of waiting for Roy to read it. He was like, "Nah, just skip." It wasn't anything that was worth writing home about. Actually, side point, Roy, the key to getting the 5-star Iron Man was to buy the Kree orbs, because half of those had Iron Man, what's his name? Ant-Man in there anyway.
Yeah.
But I've had a little bit of a change of heart in regards to the team-up events. So when you look at them and you look at the rewards, I was kind of like, nah, it's just not worth it. But that's looking at it from a perspective of the first time they come around. Whereas when they come back, I mean, these are characters that you may have already spent some time on, you've already leveled up. And again, it's that passive rewards thing. But I don't know if you guys have actually looked into the Back to Tiny World preview. It actually shows that there are no rewards in tiers that you have already cleared. Have you guys noticed that?
Yep.
I'm checking that right now.
If that's true,
Yeah.
there's no point bringing them back, because I haven't changed my stars since last time. If they're a one-off reward, that's a useless event to me to come back, right? Yep, you might get the next tier next time, but to have no rewards for the previous, what's the point? That I think, if that's true, is a bad decision. Sorry, Irish.
Well, and that's the thing though, is that, I mean, ideally, I'm not against them making it like one-off rewards, but the rewards need to be rewarded. Like, you need to be like,
Right.
oh man, I can't wait for this team up event to come back. That way I can finally, because I've been working on getting my guys from 4 stars to 5 stars, right? But it's not the way it is right now. It's passive rewards, like like we've been talking about. So, and after speaking to Casino last week, he's under the impression that the team up events aren't coming back either. So
No, the
Ant-Man and Wasp is in-game right now.
I mean, it's in game right now, so.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, come back. That's what I'm looking at right now. So if you have a look, for example, I did the 2 3-stars last time. There's no rewards there because I did it last time. So for me, I'm not putting resources into either of those characters at the moment. So that event coming back, basically, there's nothing in it for me. And when you have that, like let's say in 3 or 4 recurring times that comes back, it's a useless event. Like there'll be a large proportion of people in the game that just don't do that event because there's nothing in it for them. So I think that's a mistake. They definitely need to make it more rewarding. If they're going to repeat things coming back, I mean, yeah, there's no point in having a repeating event if you are not going to get anything new from it. So
well, it's like that with Iron Man and stuff. Once you get him 7 stars, you're not getting.
Yeah,
going to keep coming.
But that's
back.
legendary character.
Like
yeah, but you're doing that event for the character.
Yeah, that's a motivating reward to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they just tag it as legendary character, so that's what they're going.
In a game that, sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, in a game that Dorian and I play, what they did is after a certain amount of times that legendary characters came back, they said, okay, obviously a very large proportion of the player base has these characters now. Let's add in a super difficult tier called the Mythic tier that just has some really, really awesome rewards. So for those people that already have those characters unlocked in the future, they retweak those events just so you had another challenge and then some really high-end rewards off the back of it. So at this stage, I don't mind the legendaries not having repeatable loot, but for the team-up events, that seems crazy to me to not be repeatable.
Well, and I mean, for me, like if they were if they were to keep it to where it's not repeatable, it'd be cool. And this is just an idea, but it'd be cool if you could actually, the rewards were full gear sets. So like instead of having to build up and collect 60 catalysts or whatever, like they would actually reward you with, okay, so this node required tier 10 gear, right? Well, if you complete this gear 10 node, then, or event or whatever it is, battle, then we'll give you a gear that you can equip in gear 11. And then that way it kind of incentivizes you to look ahead and go, okay, like I'm not going to gear him out to 11. I'm going to see if I'm going to get get finish this node, and then I'll have that one piece of gear that
It would actually be it'd actually be cool. Like something that would motivate me would be if they gave me like a full gear set for like, so if I just completed the 10th, right, with a 10 tier, it was recommended at 10 tier. If I beat it, then it gives me the 11th, all of the gear for 11th. Now that might be too much, and I totally get that, but that's just an idea as well.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not against them just doing one though. And I think that'd be a huge reward. It's like, oh, suddenly I don't have to drop 40 advanced catalysts and all these advanced phosphates and whatever.
Right, and
I got a full-fledged
Right, it'd be kind of an interesting mirror to, instead of getting the next star for your character for completing a tier, it's the next gear set for your character for completing the tier. And with it coming back as a legendary event, I think that's one of the issues for me. Like, yes, they're passive rewards, like what you mentioned, but I don't know. I feel like all of these events, it's an event. It should motivate me to do something. And so
it should be something to look forward to,
Right, exactly. Like I should be waiting for it to come back so I can get this next thing.
Yeah.
And whenever the fact that we don't get to recomplete previous notes is terrible, considering that they weren't even good rewards to begin with. I feel like that's greedy. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of those. Those need to change. And also, I just want to amend one thing I forgot to say earlier. Which is, I also do not agree at all with Nick Fury. I didn't even mention Nick Fury.
Right.
I do not agree with that at all. So no one take your pitchforks out at me.
Yeah,
I have him, and in the current format, I still agree with that statement. I mean, a reworked Kree, sure. I mean, I'm obviously pumped that team may not be, full metal scrub in the next 30 days. That'd be great. Actually, PSA, Irish just triggered something when he was talking. If you plan on doing Fury and Shield, here's a public service announcement for everyone right now. Save every secret intel and advanced secret intel, farm them every second that you can out of the stores, because the brick wall, every single Shield character needs between 10 and 20 of those per level from 6 to 8. And then you need the advanced, same story, I think it's actually more, from 9 to 11. It is the biggest crunch that I've seen by leveling any single team, and that's after leveling Mystics with those bloody little beanbag things. But
have you done a tech team? Have you done a tech team?
Not to full, but yeah, those spiky ball things. Yeah.
Yeah, the molecules are horrible. Every one of the types have their own. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with the mutants. Has there one that's gonna block
Don't give them
out,
ideas,
right?
Actually, yeah, I should level my mutants now. I think the ones that I already have, because I don't have a good vibe. I don't have a good vibe.
Hey, my Wolverine is 7 G10, so I'm happy.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the only event other than the Kree Nick Fury debacle, the only event that I really see a diminishing return on, to be honest with you, is the payday event. The amount of gold and resources it takes for you to gear up those mercenaries is ridiculous. However, I believe they're global villains, so you may be killing two birds with one stone at that point.
No, they're city.
Are they city?
villains,
yeah.
They're city villains.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's pretty good as well. You do need that at some point, because we haven't seen what the reworked Ultima 65 is going to look like. Because I have a feeling that, or the reworked Thanos, because who knows what those trait nodes are going to look like. You're going to need specific hero.
I've got a feeling that we're going to see brawler, heroes for sure.
I'm all in on Hero Brawler. I will be fine for that.
Roy
Hey, I just unlocked the I do not have Black Panther. I just unlocked that node to 3 stars like 2 days ago, and I'm farming the heck out of it every day.
Oh yeah.
I just sent a direct message on Twitter to the creative director at Fox Next asking, "Is this true?" and sent a screenshot of the no rewards for the tiers in the Ant-Man Wasp event, and there are no rewards for doing this again.
Yeah, let me know what he says, because I'm curious about that. I won't send it now. That's good.
Yeah. So please, because I don't want to, let's not shut this guy down by hammering him all of us at the same time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Like, hey, what the heck?
So what? So let's everybody had a chance to chime in on the events.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everybody, if I do skip anybody, I apologize. But let's move on and talk about the campaign. Irish, what do you think about the campaign right now? What about the current state of the campaign?
I mean,
Give me back my card.
throw my card back.
Mic drop.
No,
No, please don't drop your mic.
Oh no, I'm not. It's too expensive. For the campaign, I mean, I enjoy it. It's that campaign's kind of on the back burners for me because there's so many things that I'm trying to focus on that it's I finished the Cosmic one because I'm obsessed with the Guardians team, so I got them up all the way. But then in turn, my Mystic team is utter garbage right now. So that's the next step is me focusing on Mystic. But yeah, I mean, overall, like I enjoy the campaign. I actually enjoy the storyline of it. I think the difficulty is pretty decent, with exception to that Nexus node with Ultimus. I think that's garbage, and I think them making it difficult for everyone. And then it's weird. Like you'll be playing a campaign, and suddenly you'll hit a wall, and then the next one will be you'll just breeze through it, you know. And I understand it's like, oh, it's the end of the chapter or whatever, but it's like it's so dramatic that I'm just kind of like, okay, guys, like settle down now. Like,
Yeah, it's a little jarring.
Yeah. And that Ultimus one, like I barely beat it. Literally my entire team died, with exception to the special ops, and that was it implanted in there automatically. And she literally would have died with one more hit, but because of the glitch that they had, I got 3 stars. And then all the people that just joined me after, I was telling them about that, and then they erased it, and then that just made them angry. So, but yeah, no, I mean, overall though, the campaign, I don't have complaints with it so far. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, you must have missed one of our earlier episodes, because I saw that as well, and I was like, guys, here's how you finish this campaign. You just go in and have everybody die except for a couple. Just bring in summoners and just have your minions.
Get through it, yeah.
Just get through it, because you'll 3-star it no matter what. So
yeah, I'm just not in favor of those giant walls. Like make it difficult, but don't make it like literally impossible. Like
it needs to be a progressive difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird if like, oh, I got 3-star in the previous node, and then suddenly I'm not able to beat it at all. I'm not in favor of that. They need to kind of ease up on the gas there.
Chewburger, how about you?
Sorry, man, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, for the most part, I think it's fine. I don't think it was one of their great shining moments where they went back and retuned that 5.9, because it was very beatable throughout the first couple of weeks. They realized that people were moving through too quickly. They raised the difficulty, and that's when the glitch came in. I think without the glitch, a lot of people wouldn't have cap where they are now. So that change wasn't great, but that's forever in the past. The back half of Mystic has probably been pretty overtuned for 65, but it looks like, obviously, with 70 coming at some stage, that'll make it a little bit more farmable. So I don't have any problems with campaign in its current format.
Hebrew?
Yeah, so for me, this is actually something that they do pretty well, I think. With exception to what Irish was saying, was that you do hit a bit of a wall sometimes, and it's just kind of odd. We see that actually a lot with the events, I feel like, even more so, because yeah, we have those nodes where we're just like, what the heck just happened? And sometimes whenever you get right after it, or right after that node, you finally beat it, the next one is no problem. So sometimes they have a struggle, I guess, balancing a few nodes in particular, but for the most part, I think it's done pretty well. I think the narrative for all of them is really good. I can't speak enough to the creative team for creating these storylines and the animations for the characters. I just think they did such a good job, and they don't get enough credit for it. But yeah, I think that they had a little bit of a down point whenever they beta ended, global launch started, and I think it was like 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. I don't remember exactly, but then they had the great difficulty change of 2018, and it made it a lot harder for everyone else, and it kind of created another gap from a little bit after launch players to launch players to beta players, because if you really completed that beforehand, you got a decently big advantage. So yeah, but that is in the past for a long time, and they haven't had those problems since, luckily. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with the way campaign is currently, and I hope that they do work the other modes a little more with the same stability that it seems like comes from campaign. Oh my gosh! All right, there we go.
And Roy, what about you?
Yeah, and like Irish was saying, the brick walls, the biggest one ever was Scarlet Witch 1.7 with the 10 Doctor Stranges. I sunk so many resources getting my Mystic team up and still couldn't beat it. But yeah, I like the regular campaign, like you guys said. I like the story, and it feels like each node, especially the hard ones, is like a puzzle to solve. Whereas the raids, it seems more RNG, like the 65 raid, where even if you do the right things, you can still get killed by the RNG. But whereas the campaign, it's if you do it like a puzzle, then most of the time you can complete it. I've actually done a lot of videos like that that's been helping people out, and that's fun doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like them. Mystic is the last one I have to complete. I actually just beat 3.5 and 3.6 last night, so I got 3 to go.
Nice. I'm a little jealous. I think my biggest issue with campaigns is sometimes you hit these nodes where, and I think I'm specifically talking right now about Mystic 2.9, where to really beat that node, you need a Doctor Strange on your team.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't get Doctor Strange because the node he's behind is what I'm trying to beat.
Well, that's why you need to watch my video. I tell you how to do it without Doctor Strange.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go watch that probably tomorrow because I think we're gonna crash after this tonight. And that is definitely because that is the one node that I've been so frustrated with. Other than that, I'm looking forward to the Nexus unlock for the. I think we're going to see that. I think we'll see that in the next update, and we may even see it before the level 70, which would kind of be nice if they, because I think that those Nexus nodes are going to have some of these characters that people have been wanting to see farmable. That haven't been. So I'm calling my shot now that we will see Nobu and Black Widow in the new Nexus nodes.
Oh, wow. I don't think they'll do Black Widow. They're just going to keep her out of there forever.
They're going to be your permanent paywall character.
That would be really sad because I don't think there's any game that does that. I could be wrong, but I really hope we don't see that at all. That would really make me sad, and nobody wants a sad Dorian.
I hope so too. Sad Dorian.
Sad Dorian. So let's move on to alliances. And alliances, their current state, I think, is, for me at least, they're stabilizing in that I think they really destroyed alliances when they went to this 2-hour Deadpool raid. And I think that was one of the, Casino even posted, it's Alliance blow up day.
Happy Alliance Explosion Day, I think.
Yeah, Happy Alliance Explosion Day. Because there were so many people being kicked out and shuffled around and moved, and it was ridiculous. But I think we're seeing the alliances come back. But I think there are some issues with alliances that they need to address. And I think they've made public statements, but I don't know if they've really done anything about it. And it's some of these alliances that are doing this ticket hopping to generate
Can I actually
tickets.
Jump in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's actually a little bit more to this than I originally thought. So I was guesting on someone else's content this week, and they were having this big discussion about cheating. And I had no idea that there's actually some alliances right now that are cheating using third-party software.
Say what?
That what
What are they
the
doing?
software actually allows them to do is that once they queue for the event, and I apologize if I'm saying this incorrectly, but this is my understanding from that visit to that content creator's. It was on Casino Stream, and yeah, apparently all these guys knew about it. Foxnext's been contacted about it. That they're able to, once they start the Ultima 65 raid, this software allows them to modify some of the multipliers or some of the active health that's actually on the characters in that game after it started. So they're actually cheesing their way all the way through that raid.
Wow.
That's
Yeah. So
and if FoxX is aware
apparently
of
that's a
this,
thing. Apparently they are. Again, I have to. This is all third party, so please take it with a grain of salt or a shot of penicillin, depending on what you're into. But yeah, the amount of people that were in that space that seem to be well aware of this. There's been a couple of posts about it on Reddit because I wanted to obviously start fact checking some of this stuff. The only thing I haven't done yet is ask Fox Next, but that's on my list of things to annoy them about this week.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. If that is happening and is really going on, and Foxnext is aware and hasn't addressed it or isn't doing anything really about it, I'll be honest with you, that's probably bigger than Nightly Gate. In fact, I will tell you that is bigger than Nightly Gate.
That definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, let's confirm it first before
Yes, absolutely.
Roll with our pitchforks. But
so-
yeah, that's definitely something that's being discussed in active community right now.
Yeah.
Did someone say pitchforks?
No. Go back, listen to my last week's episode. All right, just everybody, put down your pitchforks and breathe.
Oh,
Okay.
But then they all do what Irish just did. And they wait, I heard pitchforks. What? Where?
So Hebrew, what is your feelings on the current state of the alliances?
Oh, well, I just want to, I guess, comment back on this newfound information. I think that I don't really know because I'm not a programmer in any way, but I feel like just from games that I've played throughout my life, because I'm a pretty big gamer, cheating software happens with games. It's how quickly the developers shut it down that gives them merit. So I'm not sure if maybe with mobile games it's much harder. So it's more of just like, I don't know how they let this happen, or if it's more of a situation where, this just happened, they need to be notified and hopefully they'll shut it down very quickly. Because I'm not sure how long this has been going on. So did you get an idea of how long this has been happening from Casino whenever you were on the stream?
At least 2 to possibly 3 raid seasons. So almost since they changed
Well,
it.
that's
That's way too long.
Yeah, that's way too long.
So if that is true, and preface it with that, if that is true, yeah, I'll be picking up my pitchfork. I know Irish is probably sharpening one for me right now. So, but other than that, as far as alliances are concerned, I think that, excuse me, I think that first of all, the alliance system in general just needs a little bit of work. I think that it's too limited as far as the permissions that captains have and things like that. So I think that they really need to rework that a little bit. Like, the fact that all invites, I believe, just go to the alliance leader is silly. I think that you should be able to at least allow your captains to have certain permissions. And, there's many things that they are not getting that they should be able to at least have the option to get. But that was just one example of them. So I think that needs to happen. I think, maybe they kind of, one of my recommendations on the big letter that went out to Foxnext was some kind of way where captains can set up routes for people specifically. I thought that was a really good idea. So we did see a kind of highlight system that's happening now. My idea was actually just to a captain could assign people specific paths, and then whenever they clicked on their team to join, they would so something like that would be cool. Just basically more tools and permissions for alliance leaders and captains would be pretty interesting. As far as Happy Alliance Explosion Day, that was a huge problem, and that's more of a raid thing, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it seems like alliances are stabilizing now mostly because they got rid of that whole 2-hour Deadpool thing. Still not perfect, but it's better. And so, yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty good system that just needs a little bit of refinement, but definitely not as much as some of the other modes need.
Roy, what might you?
Sorry, I zoned out. So what was the question?
Someone's been blitzing.
Yeah, somebody's in there blitzing right now. The current state of alliances in the
blitz, man.
game. What? I get you. I feel you right there.
Yeah, I think they're good. The whole 2-hour Deadpool thing did suck for most people. Actually, our alliance handled it super well because we had people on like opposite ends of the earth, and we still got it done like every time except for the first day, just because we didn't know if we'd get it or not. But yeah, not as a regular thing. That wouldn't be good. We actually didn't lose any people during that, and then we just lost one on the latest raid now because of the traits on El Scorcho. That was just the final straw for him. So yeah, I guess we can talk a whole thing about the traits, but they're going a little too crazy on the traits here. So
Yeah, I actually
that
disagree with
isn't
you on
really
that
an
one.
alliance thing, but But yeah, I like how alliances are. I still want to see how Alliance War works out. I hope it's not like a really time intensive mode, because like you were saying like way earlier that like there's already so much stuff to do. If they make that really time intensive, it might hurt some alliances too, because they'll expect you to do everything on that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Irish, what do you think about the current state of alliances?
It's aight.
It's aight.
short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean,
So gangster this episode, just opening with yo yo yo. Now it's alright.
No, I mean it's good. I was upset about the 2-hour Deadpool raids. I don't want to dive too into it. I'll have flashbacks. But
Our alliance handled it well, so you have nothing to complain about there.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I was still upset though. I was triggered. But no, I mean, overall though, I've got no problems with the alliance. What I do have a problem with is them teasing me with alliance wars and then not saying anything. So, and then teasing another game mode, and I'm like, no, you have alliance wars. That's the first in queue. Okay. Yes.
Do you play Galaxy of Heroes, Irish?
No, I do not.
Okay, you would not be excited for Alliance Wars if you played Galaxy of Heroes. I'm just going to tell you. We have a mode in Galaxy of Heroes called Territory Wars. That is a 3-day nightmare, because like first day is just join, second day set all your defenses, and third day do some attacks.
I actually don't mind it, but I'm not at the same end game level as you, not even close. So,
yeah, so I'm in 150, about 150 million GP guild, and we're just now starting to really get into TW focus, and so I don't know, it's the same thing twice a week, every other week. It's just the same thing, just different opponents.
Yeah, Casino did mention that he thinks it'll be more closely related to basically the Alliance Wars of Contest of Champions, and he says that was a lot of fun. I personally haven't experienced that yet because I am still new to the game, but yeah, so I'm hoping that whatever that mode is and how it plays it's going to be more of like what this Alliance War is going to be, because that at least he's happy about it and he's played that game for a long time. And if it goes Galaxy of Heroes route, it sounds like it won't be nearly that much fun.
Yeah. So, was there anything else, Irish? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I mean, I would like some improvements to the chat. I mean, but that's not really, alliance focus. But I hate typing in landscape. It sucks.
Oh, yeah.
So if they could make it to where I could type vertically, that'd be cool. But yeah, just it'd be cool too if I could ping people, so I could like at them, and then maybe they get a notification
in game,
in game, and then they can be like, oh, okay, like like I could add captains, and then all the captains would get notification. I'd be like, hey, which route am I supposed to take again, or something like that. Someone else took this route.
Yeah, I don't think it should be a requirement that people have a third party communication system for for their alliances. I think that it should be a little more user friendly.
Yeah. So that would be my only complaint with alliances currently. But yeah, as long as I'm okay with the 12-hour Deadpool raid. I think that's feasible and ethical. So, but yeah, don't ever go back to that 2-hour thing. Those atrocious. So
Yeah, I think thankfully we saw the last of that.
Yeah. Although I will say I do miss the rewards of the 100%.
Yeah, give me the rewards, but 12 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I miss those. I miss all those purple ability mats.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't tell you. My alliance when we hit that, when they dropped that, was like, yeah, we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what,
not even trying.
It was great, and you missed out.
Well, yeah, I could go on a long rant on that one but I think that segment, it's ranting time, has been taken by somebody else. So, however, speaking of the person who goes on, has an entire segment for ranting, Chewy, what's your feeling on alliances right now?
Yeah, let's be clear that ranting time became a thing because Roy does blitz during our recording. So when he needs time to blitz, I have to go on a rant.
There you go.
Look, Roy said it, but I really do need to say that our experience of Alliance is probably different to a lot, that we've been unbelievably lucky to have an incredible Alliance leader that puts in a lot of work.
Absolutely.
So
I'm going to call
we
BS.
constantly...
Well, okay, maybe your leader, your guild-specific leader, but I know your Alliance leader. And I know who started that
there are several penises at the top end of our cluster. Like, I do not think for a second. Like, I had a run-in with one of these dicks yesterday. Like, there are some genuine dickheads at the top of Sigma. And if you're listening, yes, I'm talking about you. But
our
specific
they won't
alliance...
listen because I'm involved. I'm perma-banned from that server, right?
Yeah.
I used to be in Sigma
whenever
1.
you have 16 alliances together, just from a numbers game, there's going to be a dick. And if you think there are no dicks, congratulations, it's you, right?
Yeah. And by the way, we are speaking of Richards. We are speaking of Richards.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
Is there
I should
a
be
counter
following...
for how many times he said that in the past, like 2 minutes? Like, ding, ding, ding.
There's just going to be like white noise coming through that section of the podcast. All right, I'll go back to our normal rules. Sorry, I thought because we're playing in someone else's pond, that Chewy can go off. But our experience has been nothing but joyous for the most part. Yep, there have been some extreme challenges that have been placed on players, and I don't agree with the way that Foxnex has forced that. I thought, to be honest, we would have a lot more challenges than we did during the 2-hour Deadpool, but they handled it incredibly well. I was really sad to see, like Roy said, we had someone leave this week because of the trait changes. But the pressures on alliances from the way raids are lined up, I know raids is coming soon, but, there's a lot of challenges because of everyone having to be on very constantly. They have to be bang on. They have to hit their lane and their lane only. And if they make one mistake, it can be enough to, completely ruin rewards because we have such big gaps between 30, then 60, then 100. It'd be great to see some more tools in game for communication so that line and discord aren't created. I think that Dorian was mentioning territory wars. I'd actually love to see something that they have in there brought in for alliances where you could actually put those the captain instructions on the map. You know how you can do that in territory wars?
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be great for captains and guild leaders to be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, I can't complain too much because we've been very lucky, but I can certainly see how all it takes is one player to leave an alliance and everyone's progress can be shot to pieces until the new person is found, hoping that person is good, and then obviously starting again once they plug in. So I'd love to see the pressure taken off having a perfect alliance at all times. But again, I'm very blessed with where we are.
So I wanted to save this specific topic for last because I think this is going to be the kind of the big one talking about the state of the game, because I don't think there's been any mode of this game that has had more controversy, more changes, more Richardry going on than raids. So Roy, what do you think right now? And feel free, obviously, to talk about where raids were, what they did to raids, where they are now. But what are your feeling on raids in this game right now? What's the state of this for you?
Yeah, I just mentioned it earlier, but the traits they're just going all in on that, and it's I like the idea, but they're just like taking it too far, like they do a lot of things. Because maybe if like they had a whole raid where it's only like one or two, but they're like trying to throw all the like global villains, it's just ridiculous. As I'm sure everyone agrees with that.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that they very well might get even more ridiculous, like Defenders only node or Defenders and Inhumans node, or so. I don't know. I think they're going down a bad road. So I guess if they get enough bad feedback, then they might make changes, like we saw with a lot of things. But I think they did make the good changes by increasing the rewards, because they're absolutely terrible on the 65. I didn't like how much they made the difficulty a lot more ridiculous with having the waves all there at the beginning instead of coming in. But yeah, I think the 65 is still too RNG, especially in the beginning, the first few nodes, because all the other raids you get like one or two real easy nodes where you can charge up. You don't really have that in the 65.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna disagree with you a little bit on the traits, because I actually think it's a good thing. And it's one of those things where if you go in and you look at the lower end raids, they don't have the number of trait nodes that the top end does, right?
Yet.
Right.
Well, I don't think they're going to. In fact, I would encourage Foxnext to not do that, because these raids should be a progressive system, right? And what I like about it, though, is that it does force people to widen their roster pool and actually work on other characters, rather than going, oh, hey, I'm just going to leave this guy here because it's an easy blitz thing if I just leave this guy at, level 1, star 1, or whatever.
Hey, now. I like my low-level minions.
Yeah, and see, that's exactly what I'm talking about, though, is that, because, look, my Hydra, my AIM, those guys are not, worked on like everybody else. They are last on my power-up list, right? But,
yeah.
I don't think that they should just kind of sit and languish at the bottom of that totem pole either.
Well, so if we had more gold, sure, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
I was gonna make the same point.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. For a while there, I was doing okay with gold, and then we went to 65, and I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. I was kind of okay at 60, but I like traits. I think the trait nodes are fun. I think it adds a new dynamic to the raids. I actually love El Scorcho more than I loved In Fuego because of the additional raids. But if you go through the Discord and you go through my general history, you'll see where I posted how Luke Cage is probably the best tank in the game, because he held on an entire city node and survived and held off and helped two other people survive that 300 power city hero node. So Luke Cage
I did say in our last podcast how that it might be an opportunity for some people looking to get into a high-end alliance or move into a better one by focusing on like global villains, because that can be a real selling point. Like, hey, I have this maxed out global villains team, and then some alliances might take that so they could maybe 100% El Scorcho. So there's opportunity, but also then some alliances might be torn apart because some people don't want to level up, certain characters, stuff like that.
And I get it. I mean, you should always be, I am torn because I see the other side too, where you should be free to work on the characters that you want to and that you enjoy, rather than being forced to, work on people. But, with there being 3 teams and 8 lanes, 7 to 8 lanes per team, there's an opportunity for everybody to work on what they want to be able to focus on. Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there who loves Scientist Supreme and wants to build that AIM team. There's somebody for everybody, right? So I'm sure you'll find somebody somewhere that can do that. But I think it's a good direction. I hope they don't go too far with it, like getting, you can only do villain protectors like they do with some of the events, and I'm like, please stop. It's ridiculous. Let's stop. But if you're gonna tell me, I gotta have global, I gotta have villains, or I gotta have tech, if you don't get too specific, I'm much better with that personally.
Can I hop in here real quick?
Yeah, I was actually about to come to you and say, hey, Hebrew, what are your thoughts?
Hey. Oh yeah, I read your mind, so I just wanted to come in beforehand.
Or you read Discord, I don't know.
But yeah, I'm a fan of the trait nodes. I wish that this is probably a just me thing because I am very narrative focused. I wish that they would give some reasoning as to why those nodes are what they are. Like, I think it'd be a pretty cool way to maybe intertwine some lore as to why we're in this raid to begin with. I'm sure no one else cares. I'm sure it's just me, but I would like some context I would like some context as to what I'm doing here with this city villains team. So I would like that, but I'm okay if they don't bring that in. But I do like the trait notes because it allows us to build wide, and from what we've seen before, we've basically only been rewarded if we build tall. And this is a collection game, that's a big aspect of it, and I like being able to actually utilize a big roster. Like, I'm going to now succeed in certain places because I went a little more wide than I did tall, and I'm going to succeed in places where other people won't now. Finally, I'm actually going to see some payoff for that. Like, I have a really great hand team, so city villains, that's where I'm at. I have a really good city heroes team as well, and I'm the one assigned to that node, and I do use Luke Cage for it, and I think he's terrible, but
you're doing it wrong.
I beat it every time. I'm not doing it wrong.
You're doing Luke Cage wrong.
He survives to the end, but that's not because of him. That's due to my other champions that I have with him. He helps out a bit, but he's not great. He's a decent tank, but in comparison to all the other tanks that we have out there right now, I think that he is subpar at best.
You guys are going to trigger me. We're not turning this into the Luke Cage episode.
You watch it. Everyone's mic except Dorian's about to get muted hard.
This is what happens when you come to my house. I will tell you that my Luke Cage is currently 283 out of 300.
Yeah, well, that's a little different. But I'm at actually 6 stars for him, so I'm not too terribly far behind, but I'm coming up. But there's a reason why I'm doing that, and that's because defenders are getting a rework, and I can't wait for that. But anyways, ready. Yeah.
My Luke Cage is 949 over 80, so I think I win.
No. You don't win. You lose because you didn't take them all the way.
Gotta take.
No. I have
him to get good.
I have all that gold that I did not waste on him, so I do win.
It's not a waste.
Well, all right. Before this turns into a battle, so as far as the raids are concerned, yeah, I mean, raid rewards are, they're terrible at balancing those. I think we finally, with the update today to the level 65 rewards, I think finally put the nail in the coffin as far as finally balancing those out to make it worthwhile to go to 30 in every aspect. I haven't done the math on it yet. Chewburger probably will, so I won't have to, so that's fine with me. And then he's going to get yelled at on Reddit for it for some reason. But
don't post it there.
But anyways, I am excited that it's finally going in the right direction. I think that some of the nodes are a little too niche as of right now. Like global villains, we don't have enough named heroes to really make it worth it. And to be fair, to be honest, because if we want to complete it, we all of a sudden went from this build tall to build wide. And, we don't have enough gold or resources to really make that rapid switch that they did. So, there needs to be some tweaking, but that kind of stuff will come with time, hopefully. But overall, yeah, I think we're definitely heading in a better direction for raids.
Irish, what are your thoughts on raids right now?
All right. So I want my cores back, but
Nailed it.
no. I want to talk about something that none of us have talked about yet, which is the raid season rewards. We pretty much drilled into the ground the trait notes and stuff, so I don't want to talk about that. But the raid season rewards, I don't even want to say it's garbage. It's literally stupid. Like, it's just dumb. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Stupid garbage.
No, it really is. Like, they have an exponential growth system set into their reward structure. And so all it's going to do is it's going to make the rich richer and the poor poor. And it makes it to the point where it's like, okay, if you say you are a big spender, like, and you come into this game and you see if you have a sliver of intelligence and you see that reward system, you're going to go, there's literally no chance in hell that I'm going to be able to catch up to these people, because they are gathering rewards, those orange ability mats, at an exponential rate, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And my solution is they need to move it to a logarithmic rate, maybe a natural logarithmic rate, but it doesn't make sense why there's exponential rewards.
It does need to be a little regressive towards the top.
Yeah. I mean, it needs to be literally the inverse of what they currently have. So the final stretch between the second place and the first place is 150 orange mats, where at the bottom I think it's a 20 orange mat difference. And so ideally it needs to be like, okay, the bottom, it goes a jump of like 100 orange mats, and then the next jump it's 80 mats, and the next jump it's 70, and then 60, and then 40. That way, if you are at the bottom, there is a possibility of you catching up if you work hard enough. But if that person at the top wants to retain their position, they can still do that because they're still getting more orange mats than everyone else. But at the rate that they're on, it literally does not make logical sense as far as what the rewards are set at. So I don't know what they're thinking. I know they're not thinking because it's basic math that you learn in freaking high school. So, but no, that's my biggest beef is I don't know what's going through their heads with those raid season rewards. So I think it's dumb. Everything else though, I've got, I don't know, I enjoy it. So I kind of just blow through it. So the trait nodes are okay. I think they need to dial it back a little bit, but I like the approach, but I don't like the aggressiveness of the approach.
All right,
but
excellent.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. So.
All right, and Chewy, what do you think?
Yeah, so look, Raids has always been the game mode that I've engaged with the most. So I normally spend a lot of time looking at things like rewards. So first of all, I think Irish hit the nail on the head that the way that the rewards are being rolled out for the seasons are rubbish. And we're finishing top 2%. So, I mean, we are getting benefits from that curve, but I still don't think it's fair. And to be honest, we probably should have spoke about that in some of the other game modes as well, because, you look at Blitz, these guys already have, in some cases, 7-star characters, and they're getting 200-300 character shards more than anyone else. So that seems to be a game-wide problem, not necessarily just a game mode problem. So I definitely disagree with I definitely think that needs to be looked at. Overall, I like it. I don't like the trait nodes for certain groups of players. So I think that soft launch, I think that global launch guys, sort of day one to maybe the first 30 days, the trait nodes make sense because you've had time to build that one universal team, your A team for Blitz, your arena team, and your primary arena squad. But I think a lot of players after that, these trait nodes are just going to kill them. And when we saw that happen to our lowest CP guy this week, he said, guys, I've been hanging on by the skin of my teeth. You guys have been carrying me this far, even though he put in a lot of work and a lot of farm. Don't get me wrong. He did great work for us. And now he just said, look, I just can't. Like, I can't do any of these other nodes because I don't have, those specific teams. So I don't like that at the moment. I think maybe having different tiers of things available. I really hope that when they rework Ultimus, like they're saying with the 7 lanes, I hope this isn't a way of sneaking in trait nodes into that, because I think Ultimus 5 is really important right now for a lot of alliances to keep getting rewards to grow their squads, to be ready for trait-specific raids. And then obviously level 70 seems to be the thing that where everyone's going to need to be able to eventually clear Ultimus 65. So I think 65 was significantly overtuned. Look, we should probably stop calling it Ultimus 65 because there's that one little plus symbol next to it, which obviously Foxnext wants to keep reminding us that means that that's the bare minimum. Yeah, the RNG that Roy mentioned before, I mean, it's gutting. You know, you can crush raids 5 out of 6 times, and that 6th time you lose your entire squad on the first roll through, you know, unless you do a bailout.
That is true.
Yeah, and I don't like some of the nodes that are so overtuned that with any squads right now that you are forced to run a suicide squad through there just to clear out all the biggest threats, and then you can bring through your usual A team. So it's all about depth of roster at the moment, but at the moment it's not just depth of roster, it's high level depth of roster that you're going to need very shortly. And that's the part that I think is unachievable for most global launch onwards for probably another 6 to 8 weeks. And that's why personally, I was stoked. I know that many disagree that we've got a little bit more time to progress with some of those alternate squads before 70 gets here. I think that's going to be important for the raids very soon. Raids is my favorite game mode, always has been. Yeah, it could be better, but it's not too bad.
So
Can I? Oh, sorry.
no,
You want to go ahead?
yeah, if you don't mind. So I want to
Yeah, go
address.
ahead.
I want to address just one thing, and okay, so it may be a couple things, but I'm torn on this. I love the trait modes. I see your point about the some of the newer guilds, newer alliance. I'm going to call them guilds too. Some of the newer alliances are not going to be able to do like the El Scorcho. But my response almost immediately back is, should they be able to? What is that cutoff point? I mean, I think anybody that is 1 to 2 months into the game should be able to do El Scorcho. Meaning, and let me quantify that. Not 1 to 2 months like from today, but from global launch. So I think it was March 28th, right? So anybody from maybe May 1st, back to March 28th should easily be able to handle most of the traits within the El Scorcho, right? I mean,
I would disagree to have more than one squad in that time frame, because think about the last 6 to 8 weeks. Every 2 month period that the game has been out for you guys right back to soft launch, it's never been the same. You guys had the largest rewards per time spent in the game during soft launch. That was scaled back pretty significantly at global launch. Then about 2 months after that, rewards were scaled down again and again and again. I think Casino in his cast the other day was saying it was maybe 9 reward basically nerfs since global launch. So every 2 months it's getting worse and worse. If you had a player starting right now, I think that they could be struggling to have a second team at tier 10 in 8 weeks from now if they started today. I genuinely do, right? Because it's not the same 2 months all the way through that cycle. And that's my main argument with the whole soft launch versus global, or us as global versus someone that started last month. It's not the same, but we're all given the same content right now with very, very significant differences in rewards.
So but that's where it gets to be really difficult, because obviously they needed to do something, right? Because I think we all can agree the game has felt very stale. Even though they've been flooding us with content, it's been the same content.
I disagree. I think Galaxy of Heroes is stale. They haven't released a new game mode or anything new in 6 to 7 months. I think this game there's been so much change. I want 10 seconds to just go, all right, let me find my feet. What teams do I really, really, really need right now? And can we sit down as an alliance and work out, all right, I'm going to take the hit. I'm going to be the aim guy, or, I'm going to do the defenders, whatever it's going to be. I think time to actually settle for some of those players that have only just scraped into getting 65 recently. For me, I'd love a stale period. I'd love 30 days of just maybe bring back some of those repetition events, which we're seeing, maybe give us a new character through a campaign just to keep some new stuff coming through. But what game mode has been more stable other than Arena for more than 60 days?
So let me when I say stale, it's not stable. You're right. They have made changes, but it's all the same content, right? We're getting we get new raids.
Repetitive is what it is.
Yeah, it's repetitive content. We're okay. Sure, they added the El Scorcho, but the El Scorcho was just the Enfuego with up difficulty. The Ultima 6, sure, the lanes were a little bit different, but it was really the same rate as the 5 with the difficulty upped. Where we see campaign events, yeah, the story's different, but it's really the same thing every time. And Blitz, Blitz is on a schedule. It's the same thing, and we have a flood of the same thing every time. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Does that?
Well, if I could just interject here
absolutely.
real quick, because I do think that, or I at least have an opinion on a few things here. So first of all, I just want to address something you said. The Suicide Squads, I totally agree. I hate having to bring in a team literally to suicide. I think that is the dumbest thing that I have to do. I shouldn't have to go into a node expecting them to die. I should be trying to strategically win, not bringing in 5 people just to blow up. That is a strategy. So I don't think that should be something that they're promoting.
Correct.
And also, so I think that the crux of the issue, am I cutting out or not? Because my thing just dropped.
A little bit, but it wasn't bad.
Okay. But yeah, I think that the crux of the issue is how aggressively they made this change, because like I said earlier, everyone was building tall, not wide. So this sudden change caused everyone to have to basically regress on their progress. So people that were doing the El Scorcho raid, or I'm sorry, not the El Scorcho raid, but doing high-end content with just that one team, are now having to kind of back down or really struggling to stay at that same point because of trait nodes. So if they would have implemented it in a much slower process, I don't think it would have been nearly as bad. We wouldn't have seen this backlash that we're having right now. But that's Fox Next style. So I think that they're kind of, if they came into the game right now and they knew nothing else, I think that they would be fine with this. But the fact that they knew a different way before these changes and now they're struggling to stay at the same place because of them, that's what the biggest problem is.
And I can tell you, so I worked for an online simulation baseball game. Right. I volunteered my time. And years ago, I implemented a new salary cap structure to the game. And it was one of those things where, I see both sides of it, because I've been on the end user and the developer side, where you have to make these changes for the long-term betterment of the game versus the immediate backlash that you're going to get for the change, right? It's a very difficult
Yeah, but they could have done
balance.
it more slowly.
But could they? I mean, at what point?
I think they definitely could have.
So the question becomes, even if you make the changes slowly, you're still making changes, right? And people have gotten used to, because we're only seeing, like, for example, let's use the Deadpool raid as our current metric, right? We only see this raid, once a month, maybe? Once every other month? And so if you make a change slowly, you're only making a change over maybe a 6-month period, and you're still going to wind up in kind of the same boat that you're in if you make the change all at once, because people are going to adjust for what they had previously. And they're still going to have to struggle with the new stuff coming up, because maybe it's stuff they just didn't want to work on.
But at the same time, I think that, so by what I mean gradually is not just the amount that they're putting in, but also how niche particular traits are. Like global villains is almost an absurdity to have right now. And I think that maybe they, if they made that change, 4 or 5 months from now, whenever we have a team that's actually decent enough to level up to complete it, then that wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But the fact that they made all of these changes all at once with, especially some of them, such niche character traits, I think that's what's causing this problem right now, because we're having to all of a sudden, we're forced into leveling up these, in some cases, terrible champions just to try to be back to where we were before. I think that if they would have put in maybe easier trait notes and just kind of used these current content or the current content levels that we're at as an introduction to raids, and then we're going to have levels later on, and they can introduce some of the more niche and harder ones later on. I think that personally, obviously, that would have been a better way to go. I don't, other people think differently, I'm sure, but that was my opinion on it, at least.
Yeah, and I see your point. I really do, and that's why I said I can see it from both sides, and I understand kind of why they did it, but I understand the frustration with the fact that they did do it, because sometimes you have to, was it the right thing to do? Probably not. Were there better ways to go about doing it? Probably. The problem is that a lot of the times is what we've seen in this game is. Sometimes it feels like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah.
And it causes a lot of issues. And I think that unless anybody has anything else that they'd like to talk about on raids, I kind of want to move into our next big area of conversation.
This is about to tie into that, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going. I mean, other than, does anybody want to speculate on the next Thanos tier, what that's going to look like?
Oh gosh, they're so unpredictable. I have no idea.
Are we going to see cosmic villain, cosmic hero only nodes, mystic
Miss
hero,
Marvel Brawlers? Miss Marvel Brawlers. I'll put $10 on right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we will see that, but I think that we're gonna start seeing more niche traits, and I don't have a problem with that for content as long as it comes later. It comes at a time whenever they've given us enough time to kind of catch up with this new style of play that they want us to have.
Right. But so we're gonna kind of transition now away from the state of the game, and I actually semi regret asking for your overall opinion before deep diving. But I feel like maybe an overall now would have been really good. But I kind of want to move into the developer. So let's go and let's kind of talk about Fox Next for a few minutes. And there are some areas specifically about Fox Next that I want to kind of discuss with you guys. And this is not on the show notes, but I kind of want to hit this really quick. And is everybody okay on time? We're over. Oh, we're sitting about 2:12 right now. Do you guys want to just hit on this kind of briefly? Is this going to be a bigger subject? Do we need to discuss it in more depth on another show?
That one's up to you. I'm okay to keep going. If I know Irish has to leave soon, so if Irish needs to, or if Roy needs to, or Chewburger, if anyone needs to, we can, or we can all just agree to stop and do this on a different episode, or whatever's clever.
Irish, I know you need to leave pretty soon.
I just need to go to bed. So,
we could do the communication. Just why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts on the communication before you leave?
Yeah,
And
well,
right.
So there's two things real quick, and I don't think this first one's going to take very long. It's not in the show notes. So something I was thinking about. So some of you guys, are Galaxy of Heroes players. And as you know, we just got a really big 3-day update on Galaxy of Heroes. And one of the things that they did in that update was they released the pack probabilities. What do you guys think about
I saw that.
Fox Next providing orb probabilities? Do you think it'll happen? Do they need to do it? There's been a lot of contention going back and forth on this. I know there's different laws from different places. I know why they don't do it typically in the US. They don't have to release those, but they're starting to sell the orbs directly, which creates a completely different issue. What do you think? I mean, do you think they'll ever do it? If so, what do you think on that? Irish, let's start with you on this.
So you're talking about the Galaxy Heroes, they release drop rates for their orbs, or
Yeah, so for their packs that you can buy with like crystals,
Mhm.
they give you the probabilities of getting the number of shards for say a character. So if you got a marquee character pack for say 2,650 crystals, you have like a 15% chance to get 5 shards. You have a 69% chance to get 7 shards, all the way down to a tenth of a percent of a chance to get a full 300 shards. And they list out a table of probabilities for every drop available in those packs.
yeah, I mean, if this game was not geared towards kids, then I wouldn't see the need to do this. But since it is, I do think you're starting to straddle a line of gambling. So, it's weird because we're starting to see a lot of states that are starting to look at mobile games, especially. And I think Star Wars Battlefront was one of the games that really sparked the debate. But with these types of I mean, it's essentially gambling, right? Especially if you're dropping your own money, and it's being marketed towards kids. I think you can start getting into a territory where you I mean, as a company, you have to disclose drop rates. From my understanding as well, I think iTunes actually supposedly requires companies to
There's a
release
loophole.
drop rates.
Yeah, it's a loophole.
Yeah.
If it's only if you sell it directly, which is why it's the whole if you buy cores and you open it with cores, you don't have to do it. And Mobile Gamer explained it really well on his. And I've been trying to educate people on Reddit about they don't have to do it until I think the Kree Minion Orb was the first one where you actually bought fragments specifically for an orb directly.
Yeah, yeah.
They did
And I
that
guess
for Groot first, actually.
Was it Groot that they did that with?
The first one that they did, it was for Groot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the gambling aspect of the game, but I'm also an adult, so I don't know, like I do think that we are going to get to a point where we're going to see government intervention here in the state side, where just simply for the fact that these games are marketed towards kids, that you're going to see more disclosures required and more oversight. So I think it would probably be in Marvel Strike Force's best interest to get out ahead of it, especially if Star Wars Galaxy Heroes already released theirs. Then they can kind of follow suit and they can go, hey, we're just going to follow the tide. That way, whenever this thing starts coming in, and the way they release these laws, it's going to be like on a per state basis. So they're going to get to the point where it's like, okay, like if one state does it, we're just going to have to release it for the whole game because we don't want to release multiple different, I don't know, multiple different releases of the game, right? So I mean, I'm not against them releasing the drop rates. It's not a priority for me, but I can understand the concern if you're a parent and you see, kids gambling away your credit card. So,
Yeah, and that's why Joe Camel used to be no longer a cartoon character that you see in TV.
Yeah, true.
Roy, what about you? What are your feelings on that? Like the orb probabilities.
Yeah, I think they really should list it out there, but they don't want to because it's so low on the good ones that then people would never get them. So, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much my thoughts. I'm tired. So.
Yeah, no, I get it. We're running a little long here. So, Hebrew, do you have any additional thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, this one is pretty clean cut. I think that they definitely should. I think that should be a requirement for all games. I think it's still gambling no matter what, even if you know the percentages, because I mean, you can calculate out the percentages whenever you're playing blackjack, but it's still a game of probabilities. So I think that's fine and that they should, because I think that it's less of a gambling issue and more of we have to make sure that these things are even feasible. You know what I mean? Like we have to have some type of shot. And I think that Roy hit the nail on the head there with the fact that they don't want to release them because they're so low. I think that is exactly it. I think that they are incredibly low. And I'm not arguing with the fact that they are low, but I think that they are much lower than what a reasonable level should be. So I think that maybe if they were required to do so, that it would have them keep it at a reasonable rate, and I would be a fan of that.
So, Chewy, being the only person outside of the United States, what do you? I mean, I know Australia has some. They have these advertisement laws for things like this. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I definitely hope that worldwide the trends that we're seeing in Europe continue for mobile games. That it is effectively gambling. Anytime you're doing an orb or a random reward, I personally would love to see those sort of things die. I'd much rather just know here's a character. It's $50 to get him just raw usable. Take it or leave it. That's not going to happen. I know, because obviously mobile companies can make so much more money this way, even if those practices are predatory in nature. Unfortunately, I think that is here to stay. I think that the disclosure rates are unbelievably important. For example, me recently, just through an absolutely moronic mistake of not reading a description on the Kree orbs, if I had have been able to look in the drop rates, I would have seen, what the hell? Why are all these other characters in here? And I wouldn't have bought it. So I agree with what you guys said, that I think the reason the companies are so loath to do this is that you'll see that they're very low. And I think that what will happen is a lot of these companies, will never know it, but I think you'll see them buff the drop rates on certain things for those rewards before they announce the actual drop rates. The cynical side of me says that they won't want to ever reveal how low some of those were, and they'll bump them before you actually see them. So those guys that track orbs, I'll be very curious to see if there's a bump if Strike Force has ever needed to roll down to these sort of new legislations. It's unbelievably important for people, especially those that have, predilections to gambling disorders. But getting into what Dorian was talking about, that there have actually been some deals that have been offered that would be contrary to many aspects of Australian consumer law. That we have laws in Australia that when you advertise something, you have to be able to, it has to be understood by the most average person, is the sort of the general letter of the law. That if you look at it and it said Kree orbs, but Kree wasn't the only thing that was in there, technically that was something that could fall under misleading in Australia. But the more important one is the way they advertise discounts. That, when they introduce a brand new item to a game that's never been sold before, in Australia, you have to do a thing called a price establishment. That the way that you say a product's normal price, so to speak, is you have to have it displayed for more than 12 weeks before you can display a discount, because otherwise the consumer is technically entitled to whatever percentage off you're saying of the average sale price of that item over the previous 7 weeks. So when they introduce a brand new Doctor Strange pack that had never been seen before, that was 50% off, yet you'd never been able to buy anything for him, that was one thing that was definitely a bit of a red flag to me, that it was a little bit sort of misleading, saying, well, it's half off, but we've never seen full price. So how do we know that that's true?
Right. It's actually pretty fascinating. So, like, as I mean, I've been told this before by teachers and professors, but what a common practice was at like supermarkets and in mom and pop shops is they would raise the price of a product and like for a week, and then they would discount it back to the regular price and then post 25% off. Even though
dealerships do that all the time over here too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the fact that there's a 7-week like I don't know like span that they have to abide by is really interesting. Huh.
Well, it's amazing how many companies in Australia, or how many consumers, are not aware of this. And I was in sales at a company who, unfortunately, the government had chose to target. Like, it was a huge franchise across Australia. I was a 16-year-old kid, and we all had to go through and do this governmental training on, these are the laws, this is what you have to do. So if a client came in and they would say, well, what's the discount on that? And you can say, sir, this is the price today, okay? The price we're offering next week will be higher. And they go, yeah, but what's the discount? And we weren't allowed to legally answer that question. It was it's really tough for a lot of those small businesses to be able to do this when a lot of the big corporations kind of get away with it, because the watchdog doesn't really have the teeth that it should in Australia. Sorry, this has become a very Australian tax law. But let me talk about the thing that probably pisses me off the most about Australia with games like this, is not just the probability, but that Australians are ripped off because of where we live. So the Kree pack you guys spoke about, $99 American. If you transfer that into Australia, it's about $120, $130. For us, it was over 170.
Well, that's because we got to import. Yeah, I mean, we got to
You
ship
import
it to
digital
you.
content.
Yeah, we got to
digital
ship
content.
it to you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
it's got to be shipped. I mean,
Everything digital content in Australia is higher than it should be,
That's absurd.
and they do it because they can, and
Yeah.
because the Australian government lets them. It's something that is a constant bugbear for all Australian gamers for sure, and that's why pirating, ironically, is the biggest in Australia compared to anywhere else in the world.
That makes sense.
Not just because we were originally all convicts.
right. I wasn't going to talk about Botany Bay, man.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Botany Bay, brother.
It depends. Are we on the Star Trek version? Anyway, guys, I think we're gonna wrap up for this week. We're hitting the we're about 2.5 hours in right now, and I think that's enough for one episode. What do you guys think?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds good.
save the rest for the next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Roy, why don't you tell us a little bit, to give our listeners that aren't familiar with the Masters of Launch, and let us know where we can find you, what you guys are talking about. Plug your show for us.
Your YouTube as well. I also want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely
absolutely.
on your YouTube.
Well, at Chewburger pretty much covered in the opening that we are both day one global launch players, and we're trying to give perspective and tips for people that are launch players as opposed to beta, because a lot of the content creators are beta, so they have a different perspective than us. And like he said, I'm like pretty much free to play, and he's a Dolphin, so that we have the two different perspectives on that. We're currently on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, and is that all we're on, Chewburger?
Pocket Cast at the moment as well, but we're just in the review process for a couple of others as well.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to try to get that on as many as possible. We have the new episodes come out every Monday or Tuesday, depending on where you are in the world. And my YouTube, you just search for Big Roy Awesome. I do mostly videos on Blitz and also like hard campaign nodes. That's been mostly what I've been doing. But I do videos on pretty much a lot of areas of the game. So be sure to check that out, subscribe. And if you leave a comment saying you want to see a certain campaign node or raid node, I'll try to get it done for you.
All right, excellent. Let's see, Hebrew, PowerCore Podcast. Where can our listeners find you?
So yeah, you can pretty much find us everywhere. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. We have our Podbean as well. And then you can, if you want to communicate with us, you can email us at msfpowercore@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/PowerCore Pod. And you can join our Discord by going to discord.me/PowerCore Podcast. And yeah, we have an interesting dynamic between us. We are in the Dolphin / now free-to-play territory, so we're in a weird situation. But we also, one thing that's kind of interesting about us is that he's, Irish is always attacking Fox Next aggressively, and I'm typically a little more in the defense of it. So you get a little bit of both viewpoints, which is nice. But yeah, come on by and join us on our Discord, support our show if you enjoy our content, and yeah, just keep listening to all of our podcasts.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm definitely going to sell you guys up, both of you actually. And for those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Dorian from the Strike Force Damage Control podcast. We're available on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/SFDC podcast. I run a slightly different type of show since I lost Muggin, and my former co-host, and I actually do kind of a live talk show where I invite the studio audience to come listen live as I record, almost like you would with a video Twitch stream, but it's all audio. I do offer, for people to have a chance to talk during the show. Excuse me, and I'll be bringing in a bunch of guest hosts. I think I've got the month of September scheduled out now. Where bring in just listeners that have requested coming in, patrons that want to try out. I do roster reviews, blitz suggestions, things of that nature. You can find us at discord.me/SFDC podcast. You can email us at sfdcpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at SFDC podcast as well. Guys, I just want to say thank you. I think this has been absolutely awesome and wonderful for the first episode of Podcasters Assemble. I hope it's something that we all do again. But I'd like to give everybody a chance to kind of say goodbye. So, Irish, why don't you take us away?
I had a ton of fun. I look forward to the next time we do this, and hopefully I can bring in a little bit more creative perspective next time. So, I want my power cores, okay?
I'm going to cut that, and that's going to become a soundbite.
I want my power cores. Yeah, no, I had fun, guys.
Excellent. Chewy, how about you?
Yeah, no, this was great. I really look forward to doing it again. So thanks for everyone in the community for interacting over the last week. It's been interesting. But yeah, we'll catch you guys soon.
All right, Hebrew?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time now, so I think we have a great dynamic, and I had even more fun than I thought I was going to have. So I'm sure this will be one of many to come, and yeah, so I'm excited to do the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Roy?
All right, I also had tons of fun. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this epically long podcast. And stay tuned, and stay awesome. And remember, Luke Cage sucks.
Thankfully, that is not our.
Saves it to the end.
You know what though?
He has the last.
I have full edit control on this one. So, for those of you that just got 30 seconds of dead air, maybe someday you'll find out why.
You can make that a sound. You can make that a sound file too, if you want.
Oh yeah, because I'll play it back to you when you come back and go, man, I was wrong. I was so wrong.
Maybe after the rework, but that's not fair.
Hey, look, okay, I'm going to take a few minutes here, and if anybody wants to drop out, you can. That's
few
fine.
minutes.
All right, okay, I'm signing off. I will see you guys later.
See you, Irish. So, you know what? I will agree with you that Luke Cage is not a top tier tank. Okay, he is in that second tier. He is behind Cap. He's behind Drax. He's behind Thanos, without a doubt.
Way in the back.
I think that he is only. The problem is he is only maybe 5% off those guys. He has a lot of utility. Until Thanos' rework, he was the only tank in the game that offered you a 2-turn taunt. Okay, that defense up. I know a lot of people complain about it, but when that ability is maxed out, it's actually a 2-turn defense up as well. And he's the only.
Isn't it only on himself?
It is only on himself, but it gives you that opportunity to get that taunt off.
You get the 1-turn taunt defense up.
You get the 1-turn taunt defense. And then with him also is the fact that he's the only tank that has a natural regen built into him. He actually provides a lot of utility. Now, I agree. He needs the solid team around him. You can't just throw him into any team like you can with Cap or Drax. He's not that universal tank. But he's not as bad as I think people, like to say. You're right. He needs that team around him. He really needs to especially be with Jessica Jones, because she gives that 15% plus resistance up to the defenders. And that really increases his viability. But plus not only that, he also gives out energy.
Yep. He is.
So,
I mean, Cap does all of that in one turn pretty much, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's all he does. So
over and over and over again, yeah.
Well, it's not over and over and over, but look, I'm not going to say that.
Sometimes I think about when you talk about Luke Cage, Dorian, is I kind of picture you like a Jehovah's Witness knocking on random strangers' doors, just saying, "Excuse me, sir, do you have time for me to talk to you about Luke Cage?"
Hey, I'm gonna
need a Photoshop of that.
Oh yeah,
I'll see what I can do.
Right, cool.
I'm not gonna lie. He needs some changes, right? That taunt and that defense up really need to go together. I think that he needs some utility in the fact that he should be immune to bleed. He should take less damage from piercing. I agree. He needs some work and he needs some utility, but he's not the worst tank in the game.
I also think that his basic needs just something else. It does literally nothing damage wise, and I think that if you threw on some kind of a debuff that went with his basic or something, or maybe even some kind of other protection ability, I don't know how you would work it, but if they just went full out tank with him where he does 0 damage and just tanks out, I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah, but to do that, they've got to increase his armor. They've got to give him that defense and that taunt at the same time. I'd hate to see him lose the 2-turn taunt because I feel like that's part of his uniqueness. But I do think that he does need to have the defense and the taunt together, and that he needs to be able to spread that love around a little bit better than what he does right now. So
right.
Anyway, that's kind of my thing on Luke Cage. Rebuttals?
No, I mean, I think I agree at least.
So long story short, he sucks.
Look, in the next month or two, Dorian, that'll be your time to shine. I have no doubt. But at the moment, he's a bit on the average side. Yeah.
So if you guys listen to our podcast, I called it with Thanos.
Yeah.
If you could say
the crazy guy shouting in the corner was right for once.
Hey, you only have to be right once. With that, everybody. With that, everybody, we're going to call it an evening. Thank you for listening to the very first episode of the Podcasters Assemble podcast. And Department of Redundancy Department. Until next time, keep fighting, true believers.